if any points that I'm making or if any connections that I'm making are wrong, please correct me. I would like to be wrong in this scenario so that it can appease my anger. The reason the union exists is to be for the workers and to help the workers. That is not a thing that should be debated. The concept of a union is phenomenal because when you have people in absolute power who have the ability to fuck you over, they will fuck you over because they have no emotional attachment towards you, and people are inherently selfish. We need unions for a reason. However, if the union itself is the thing fucking people over, then we do not have a need for that specific union and that specific circumstance.
Gonna leak anyway, because on December 10th, 2024, SAG-AFTRA...
I hate when good things that are supposed to be good have things representing them that then corrupt the view of the good thing and ruin it for everyone. You know, since I keep about Dan Heng being muted, I would finally educate myself on the SAG strike and why there's such controversy around it, because good lord, it felt like one day it was all on one side and one day it was all on the other side, and now it's just like a cluster. Oh god, this is an hour and a half. Let us be educated. This is by Mujin's his name, right? Yep, Mujin. I've seen a couple of his videos before. He does pretty good deep dives from what I've seen.
6th, 2024, the biggest video game strike in history took place. The 160,000 SAG-AFTRA union members were prevented from working on any video games.
And of course, let me know if it's too quiet, too loud.
The reasoning behind this was the fact that AI was going to take over their jobs unless they got the studios to agree to new contract terms protecting their performers. What many weren't expecting, though, is that after 8 months, the strike would produce no results, and players started to feel the impact. But even though that was the case, the majority was still on their side, fully and unconditionally hoping that they get the rights that they deserve. This is why it was so incredibly shocking to see all the progress of the strike get absolutely squandered in the span of just 1 week because of a few entitled voice actors, specifically ones that worked on Genshin Impact.
Oh my god, that's a jump scare.
Has now called for all of them to be replaced mid-strike, completely catching them by surprise. Even worse, this controversy opened up a can of worms, and people started to look into the union itself, the one who organized this strike.
Really? Okay. So here's my thing, right? I feel like unions are so controversial when they really shouldn't be. Because, you know, the whole idea of a union, right? Amazing. Wonderful. The corporations, right? But I feel like if a union has too much power, they're just gonna be as bad as the corporations. What's that saying about power? Something like absolute power corrupts absolutely. Like, no matter what, if you give any entity too much power, it's gonna fuck you over. Like, is that what's happening? Maybe?
People started to find out its inconsistent, shady, and overall weird history so far, questioning why voice actors and performers in general don't have a better union to represent them. And if that wasn't bad enough, one of the entitled Genshin voice actors that caused this mess posted an 8-minute rant in front of a toilet, complaining about all the harassment they've received, while saying that they could vomit
voice
at any
actor.
second. By the way, that voice actor voices the most important character in the entirety of Genshin Impact. Guys, this might be my most requested video of all time. Now, there are a few reasons for that, but it's mostly because while it is a crazy situation, it's also one of the most confusing. And seeing that this is definitely going to be an unforgettable part of the internet's history,
I'm just going to flash cure my phone
to talk about it. So, without further ado, let's do this. Alright, so to really understand what's been going on, we have to go back to the absolute fundamentals. What the hell is a labor union anyway? Well, the definition is an organization formed by workers in a particular trade, industry, or company to improve pay, benefits, and working conditions. In other words, when you negotiate your salary, you're negotiating your worth, and as one person versus an entire corporation, the corporation clearly has the advantage over you. There's only so much you can ask for before they say, well, we'll just hire the 1,000 other applicants that wanted this job. The whole point of a union is negotiating as one body of workers versus negotiating individually. That way, you give the company access actual consequences for refusing to negotiate, like not working and making them lose a lot of money in the process. That's what striking is, and it's a union's biggest weapon. Unions have actually been around for a long time, ever since the Industrial Revolution. So
I remember
the
learning
19th
about this
century,
in school.
Many of these new workers in factories were coming from farms and more traditional crafts, and were being treated pretty damn badly by the factory owners. They would decide to group together and negotiate as one. But for the US specifically, most unions...
I wonder if, I don't know, because I feel like the education system is so... oh, shit! Lower my arena content is adless. Yes! Yes, in fact, if anyone would like to subscribe to the NotIrena Not channel, that would be greatly appreciated, considering the reason I didn't stream yesterday was because my car took a little longer than expected, and also my mood was kind of sour because I needed to pay $1,232.99 for my vehicle. Okay, back to educating ourselves.
Unions fell apart due to bad management, and at the same time, their rights weren't recognized. Unions were not protected in any way legally. This would all drastically change in the year of 1935 when the Wagner Act would be passed under President Franklin Roosevelt. It guaranteed the right of private sector employees to organize into trade unions and engage in collective bargaining.
There we go.
In other words, it gave them the right to negotiate as one body rather than individual workers. And it also, more importantly, gave them the right to strike. From that point onwards, unions started to become way more popular. You wouldn't see them just popping up for...
Oh, my thoughts on the education system. Yeah, thank you. I wonder how this is being taught now. You know how our government just loves to be for the people. I wonder if there's a lot of anti-union propaganda nowadays. I feel like that would be interesting to take a peek at.
You would have a labor union by the name of the Screen Actors Guild, otherwise known as SAG.
SAG! That's such a shitty acronym.
The American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, otherwise known as AFTRA.
SAG.
They represent everyone else in entertainment. Anything from a radio talk show host to a stuntman. We'll get back to SAG and AFTRA in a bit, but for now, just know that this was the golden age for unions.
Wait, they were split? They have a monopoly, don't they? Do I sniff a monopoly? Is that what I'm doing right now? Am I sniffing out a monopoly? With all the leaning direction bleeding? Yeah, I'm wondering how social studies is going.
Unions in America. And while they do have a lot of pros, one can't help but notice that once a union gets powerful enough, it has the potential under bad leadership to become the exact same thing it seeks to fight against, a monopoly. As unions started to become more popular and numerous, they would start to have rivalries. At the same time, you'd also see a new invention pop up, a union shop.
Fight Club, but for
that
unions.
would only hire you if you were a part of its union. This concept wasn't very popular because not everyone wanted to join a union. They had their reasons. Some people didn't want to pay the agency fees associated with a union.
You gotta pay.
These are fees typically taken monthly or yearly to keep the union running, while some others simply just wanted to retain their independence, being freelancers or contractors. But these union shops gave them no choice, and this must be very confusing to you if you're European. In France, for example, employees strike like every week at this point, but only 10% of employees are actually part of a union. That's because in France, if a union successfully gets more rights, like, 2 more days of parental leave a year, everyone, regardless if they're in a union or not, gets that benefit. So union shops...
Oh, say, can you see? I love America. I can't touch my face, I'm wearing makeup.
Are actually part of a union. That's because in France, if a union successfully gets more rights, like, 2 more days of parental leave a year, everyone, regardless if they're in a union or not, gets that benefit. So...
Man. I'm so tired. Why do I have to be an adult? Why is that a thing that I have to be? If France is an example of actual democracy where people... Yeah, I mean, France has a lot of issues, like being French, but they're good with workers' rights from what I've seen. Like, ugh.
Union shops were definitely counterintuitive. Additionally, what didn't help during the Golden Age was that some people realized that having a union full of thousands, maybe sometimes hundreds of thousands of employees under your command was very powerful. So you did have a couple of instances where crime syndicates would infiltrate unions to gain power and use that power to extort others. At some point, one of the biggest unions in the country, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with over 1.3 million members, had their president, Jimmy Hoffa, effectively use the $2.2 billion pension fund that was meant for employees' retirement as his personal bank account. He would use it to invest in property.
Now that's just government. That is just just government. Now what the hell?
To bribe certain officials, whether politicians.
2.2 billion. Yeah.
The most abused.
Listen, at this point, I'm starting to hate the French less than a large number of Americans. Yeah. You see, I would point out the amount of like vicious Islamophobic hate, but like same here in America. So really, can I point that out, or can they just point right back? Oh, sick. There's a fuzz in my nail. $1 billion?
Fund that was meant for employees' retirement.
Oh yeah, would you look at that? It's right there. 2.2 Man. Imagine having $2.2 billion. You would not be stressing out about paying $1,200 and $1,232.99 on your 2012 car. Imagine having $2,200, honestly.
He would use it to invest in property, to bribe certain officials, whether politicians or mafia bosses.
Oh yeah, that
Forbes called it
sounds
the most abused,
like now.
misused pension fund in America back in 1980. Just like Uncle Ben told Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. And some people chose to completely abuse that power. But the killing blow for unions, really the final nail in the coffin, actually came after giving them more rights. You see, the Wagner Act only gave private sector employees the ability to unionize. But in 1962,
Okay.
almost 30 years later, John Kennedy decided to make it possible for public sector employees to unionize as well. This meant that government employees were able to not only create unions, but join them too. There was one very
Okay.
important condition in this executive order, though, and that was you are forbidden to strike as a public sector employee. 19 years later, that
Okay, how would like a public, this is the color by the way, how would a public sector employee striking be different from like the government shutting down and then, or do public sector employees still work when the government shuts down and they just don't get paid, or do they just not work? We remake the mob. All right, well but yeah, like do they just stop, because then like what would the difference of, I mean, granted, from what little I can remember of learning in school, the government was a lot more functional back then, so they probably didn't have, the government shutting down every other week. But yeah, I don't see how shutting down would be different from employees striking for their rights. That color is pretty. Thank you! Public sector employees do work. Damn! So they just don't get paid? That's some bullshit.
that rule would be broken under the most anti-union president in United States history, Ronald Reagan. In 1981,
My grandma loves Ronald Reagan. And it makes me sad. It makes me so sad. I grew up thinking that guy was the best. And then I'm like, oh, I'm like actually learning about American politics. I'm like, oh, wow. We really could just, for the most part, unironically blame everything on that guy, can't we?
Union of Air Traffic Controllers, by the name of Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization, organized a strike. 13,000 of its 17,500
Another
members
fuzz
walked
is in my
off the
nail.
job. They all wanted a $10,000 a year pay raise, as well as a 4-day work week as opposed to a 5-day work week. And finally, a full retirement after 20 years of work. Air traffic controllers
20?
are technically...
Huh. What were their working conditions? Wait, hold on. Walked off the job. No, it doesn't say anything about their... Oh wait, yes it does. Demanded across the board wage increase of 10,000, whose pay ranged from 20... Jeez. Okay, and when was this? 1981? What was the average wage? 1981? Let me Google that. In 1981, oh wait, no, that's the AI overview. Ew. Okay, census.gov. The median family income was $22,390. I don't know how that compares to, like, price of living, but okay. Yeah, I could see why a Republican president would be pissed about them striking.
public sector employees. Ronald Reagan gave them 4 days to get back to work or all be fired. Within 4 days, 1/4 of the striking employees came back. The rest were all fired, which led to the complete decimation of this union. After this incident, strike rates in the country would go down significantly and unions would slowly but surely die out a slow, painful death. As it stands today, private sector unions are at their lowest in the last 50 years.
Yeah,
And in
there's
most
been a
industries,
lot of
unions are
anti-union
struggling
propaganda.
to even keep their current members, except for one industry in particular, and that's entertainment. This brings us back to both SAG and AFTRA, the two biggest unions for anything entertainment related. Seeing that they both practically own the entertainment world, they decided to merge in 2012 to position as the premier union for anything entertainment
monopoly.
related. But that's not all. Ever since merging, they have been making bank, dude. In
Yep.
2012, after
Wow,
merger,
what a
until
shock.
2022, They made over $1 billion in member dues and non-member fees.
Imagine making $1 billion in member dues and member fees and not having to worry about paying $1,232.99 on your 2012 car. I'm picturing it, and I'm feeling the stress roll off my body. And then I open my eyes and realize my reality, and the stress just piles back on.
As if that wasn't enough, its membership climbed to record
Reagan fucked up
highs.
so
As
much,
other unions
yeah.
struggled to even exist, SAG-AFTRA was killing it with a record 171,000
I
active
can name
members
someone
paying their
worse,
fees.
though.
I mean, look at these earnings. In 2022 alone, they made over $101 million in membership fees.
Imagine making $101 million in membership fees and not having to worry about that. I just want to remind people that's $999,000 plus another 1,000. Yeah.
You have to pay a $3,000 initiation fee, but that's only the beginning because after joining, you have to pay over $236 a year, as well as 1.575% of any money you earn every year in order to stay. By labor
Yikes!
union standards.
Oh, dear
That's a
God.
lot. So what do they offer in return? Well, they offer healthcare as well as pension/retirement plans like most unions. Oh, they have deals and discounts as well as discount film.
Big brain Irena, thank you. I have a big ass head, so occasionally my brain decides to expand and fill it.
Okay, you know what? It's totally worth the price tag. But you want to know what's even better? After paying $3,000 to join, you only get health coverage if you meet applicable earnings thresholds. And you only get pension contributions when you're working SAG-AFTRA contracts only. Okay, that seems like the bare minimum. I don't know why this guy's staring at me the way he is. It's creeping me.
White man jump scare.
Face an existential threat? Maybe, but not for everyone. Picture yourself as a university student on November 2022. You have a dissertation to present next week, and ChatGPT just came out. This was revolutionary for any student. And while it was really cool to have an AI be able to write so much with such little prompts, things went from cool to concerning when Sora came out, capable of creating videos just from prompts.
Oh,
There
yeah.
was a big concern, not just over all the things they stole to make this, but over the fact that greedy studio executives would probably see this as an opportunity to cut even more costs from already terrible Hollywood movies. And in 2023, that's exactly what happened. A Marvel show by the name of Secret Invasion, meant for Disney Plus, used AI for its opening credits.
I never heard about
Nothing
this.
else, just AI. It looked terrible. And that got people panicking. This was barely 1 year after ChatGPT. It clearly looked bad, but it was approved anyway. What else are studios willing to do now? This is when
what the fuck?
SAG-AFTRA and its biggest members decided to step up and fight for the average common actor's rights. In the summer of 2023, a vote was held over whether to strike or not, and the majority, more than 93% of SAG-AFTRA members voted
That is
yes.
very
so
fair.
It was official. They were all ordered to strike, meaning that they couldn't work on any movies or series or even participate in any promotional material. And after 118 days of striking, they finally were able to reach a deal with the
I
top
do
studio
remember
in
that
Hollywood
strike.
for many different things, including compensation, residuals, and AI protections. There was only one small problem, though.
Oh, no.
This enormous victory as SAG
I remember people being very, your favorite part of this is coming up? Oh god. I remember people being very upset because the strike didn't even have good AI protections. And I remember being on Twitter and being like, what the fuck? Like, wasn't that the whole point?
SAG-AFTRA called it, only applied for people working in cinema or theater, or just Hollywood in general, but had nothing to do with the profession that is most vulnerable to the rise of artificial intelligence.
Of course not.
Voice acting. When I said that SAG-AFTRA represents everyone in entertainment, I meant it. They represent everyone. They're practically a monopoly. This includes anyone doing voice
Oh, they're
acting.
not
We're talking
practical.
voice actors for games, for anime, for just about anything. But let's not forget that video games also have actors, singers, dancers, stunt actors, motion capture artists, and a bunch of different performers under SAG-AFTRA. So technically speaking, all of these people were left behind during that strike in 2023. This was a very
God.
big problem because these performers were paying the same fees and dues as Hollywood actors and were in an industry that is way more likely to use AI
Dude.
compared to Hollywood, as evidenced by recent developments. This has gotten so problematic that layoffs have been increasing while AI initiatives have been getting more and more funding. It's gotten so unbearable that game developers are getting so fed up with their boss's obsession with AI. Now, for a while, people didn't really take these warnings very seriously. I mean, who actually thinks that AI can replace real developers, right? Well, recently, we got a peek as to what the future could look like, and
Oh, no.
it's not looking good at all. On March 20th, 2025, Ark Survival Evolved released a trailer for an upcoming expansion. This is genuinely one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, look at this. This is really bad. It obviously was dislike bombed. People hated
What
it, but
the
that's
fuck?
not really going to be enough of a reason for developers not to use AI. And while,
What the
this looks
fuck are
terrible,
those
video
CapCut
generation still has a
captions?
very long way to go before looking decent. Voice-related AI tools are already worryingly very
What?
you can find
That was an advertisement? An advertisement. That's supposed to make me want to play the game. Okay, buddy. Okay. I was gonna wait to see if he mentioned it, but federally AI content can't be copyrighted. Yes! That's true! Oh my god, I forgot that! So the entirety of Secret Wars intro is open access! Oh my god, that is so funny. So Marvel fucked themselves. Honestly, serves them right. It's true! CapCut captions!
different websites, sometimes free, able to fully clone a voice, and the only thing they need is just a short audio clip of that person talking. Some of them are so good that the AI voice doesn't sound monotone, like it won't be talking like this. It'll be able to scream, sometimes even able to whisper, and sometimes even exhibit some form of emotion, depending on how good the audio sample you give it is. Many voice actors have been feeling existential for years now. Is this it? Are they even needed anymore now that AI has gotten so good? So seeing that SAG-AFTRA so heroically stood up to the dangers of AI for its actors in cinema, it only made sense for them to do the same thing for its voice actors and motion capture artists when it came to video games, since they represented them too, right? Well, it took them a little while, but in the summer of 2024, they finally decided to go on strike for video game performers. The SAG-AFTRA president said, "We're not going to consent to a contract that allows companies to abuse AI to the detriment of our members. Enough is enough. When these companies get serious about offering an agreement our members can live and work with, we will be here ready to negotiate." This strike is happening because after 2 years of negotiation, they couldn't reach an agreement with 10 video game studios in particular. The whole point of this strike is to not work for these companies in particular, and that is it. This isn't an industry-wide strike. It only affects Activision, Blindlight, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts Productions, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions, VoiceWorks Productions, and Warner Bros. Games. That's it. Under union rules, you cannot work for any of these companies, but no one is stopping you from working for any other company. SAG-AFTRA didn't really frame it that way, though. They said, "We're fighting for our survival," and they made it seem like they were striking over the entire industry. This strike affects roughly 2,600 SAG-AFTRA members. And as I mentioned earlier, this wasn't just about voice actors, it was also stunt performers, singers, dancers, and it even prohibited people from participating in camera tests, rehearsals, auditions. It was a complete embargo on video game work for these developers. And you know what? It was really hard to find anyone opposing the strike online. It seemed like everyone was on these performers' sides. Yes, you deserve to be protected from AI. SAG-AFTRA claimed that the contract would also have better healthcare options and higher pay. Who would be opposed to that? People wanted to see them succeed. But we're in 2025 now, and after more than 200 days of striking, SAG-AFTRA says that they're nowhere near close in agreement with these affected studios, saying that the latest contracts proposed by them have alarming loopholes. SAG-AFTRA doubled down, saying that we have proposed a deal to these studios that includes wage increases of over 15% for SAG-AFTRA represented performers in video games, as well as enhanced health and safety protections and industry-leading terms of use for AI digital replicas in-game and additional compensation for the use of an actor's performance in other games. But here's the thing. If you're a gamer, there's a good chance that you had no idea that the strike was happening to begin with. So what gives? The whole point of this strike is to delay the games currently in development by the studios that are affected. So since Take-Two is involved...
Unless you play Honkai Star Rail and you love the character Dan Heng and his voice disappears and brings you into a state of absolute disarray and agony. Not that I can relate.
The strike in any way. Unless, for whatever reason, you played Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact's developer, Hoyoverse, is not part of the strike in any way and has always been a non-union project. It's never been a union project. A big part of their voice acting talent for their English dub happens to be SAG-AFTRA members, and those voice actors have decided to strike the game. Unlike the other games being striked, this one is a live service game that has updates come out periodically with voiced quests. This means that ever since the strike, many of the patches coming out have had completely mute characters when you play with the English dub, and the players have been feeling it. So that's where things get kind of weird. In their FAQ section, they have this question here. I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, but I'm tempted to take a non-union job to make ends meet, like Genshin Impact. Why is that a bad thing? I'm just trying to earn a living. To which they answer, non-union work undercuts the union's ability to negotiate the best contracts possible for you. If non-union producers can hire the best in the business for next to nothing, they have no incentive to go union. Additionally, non-union work allows producers to pay less and avoid paying residuals and retirement benefits. It also subjects you to longer unpaid work hours and potentially hazardous working conditions. And when you work off the card and run into problems, the union can't help you because the project wasn't produced under the SAG-AFTRA contract. Working off the card not only contributes to the growth of non-union work, but it
refresh. Okay, good.
Jeopardy. Under the union's Global Rule 1, members must work under contract. Consequences for working off the card range from fines to suspension to expulsion from the union.
Yikes.
Not only are you confused, I am too. How is it that the majority of voice actors on Genshin Impact, a non-union project, are SAG-AFTRA affiliated, which directly breaks this rule, but are also striking even though the game isn't part of the strike? It makes absolutely no sense.
Okay.
You know what else doesn't make sense? Around 6 months before the video game strike, SAG-AFTRA signed a deal with a voiceover studio for AI use in video games. This article from Variety says, the company sells AI voices to video game developers from its library of ethically licensed voices.
Yeah, I'm
Last
so
year, the company
sure.
announced a new iteration of smart NPCs, non-playable characters that could use OpenAI or other language models to interact with video game players. This deal pertains only to digital replicas, using AI to recreate the voice of a real performer, living or dead. This obviously...
I don't even really have anything to say to that. What? Liarsburg got caught up in this, and that's why everyone stopped playing it? Really? Oof.
Divided the hell out of voice actors in SAG-AFTRA. It's like, what? Like, you just did a strike for actors for like over 100 days, and now you're signing this, and you haven't even
what the
covered
fuck?
video game actors yet? Weird. I think disappointment is the first word that comes to mind with both announcements. Amber Warnock Estrada, a video game journalist and aspiring voice actor, said, "We were all just like, what was the point of the strikes?"
Yeah.
Marcus Rothenberg, a full-time voice actor, echoed the same disappointment. "The union didn't consult their members," Rothenberg said. "I know people that had never heard anything about this until the deal went through." You know what else is interesting? For Genshin Impact specifically, Hoyoverse uses a studio established in the US by the name of SIDE. That means that they don't hire voice actors directly, they hire a studio that gets them actors on
I
their
knew
behalf.
that.
SIDE also happens to have very strict AI protections in their contract.
Okay.
So what are the voice actors striking exactly against Genshin?
Yeah,
no one
what the
really
hell?
knew, and no one
All
really
the voice
bothered
lines
to
were
research.
full AI.
Look,
Oh
this is
my
the Genshin Impact
God,
subreddit, in which someone posted an update on the strikes. Look at the top comment. Nice. Hopefully the negotiations are swift and in actors' favor. Even though the game they were playing was practically voiceless, right? They saw the voice actors voicing some of their favorite characters go on strike for their rights against AI, and they supported them fully. If there was any frustration from the players, it was actually towards Hoyoverse. Why the hell don't they sign the contract? Why is it so hard for them to give voice actors the rights that they deserve and protection against AI? This was the attitude that most of the community was
I'm getting so tired of AI. Me fucking too. You know how pissed I am whenever my phone, because I just got the 25 Ultra. You know how pissed I am whenever I get a pop-up that's like, use this AI? I'm like, no! Damn it! Leave me alone!
Hoping for a peaceful resolution until people started getting fired. Zenless Zone Zero is a game made by the same developer of Genshin Impact.
Yeah, Wolf Boy!
It's really fun to play and was definitely made to appeal.
You keep getting AI at... Really? Are they on YouTube a lot? I have YouTube Premium, so I haven't been, like, watching the YouTube ads. And I've heard they've gotten even worse. Like, so much worse. Yes? Oh my god. I remember seeing one ad that was over an hour long, and it was like for some sort of like Furby music video. Every time an ad is an AI ad, ew. I love how everyone's like, don't be so nihilistic, don't be so pessimistic, and then this is the world we live in.
Furries. Ever since release, his voice actor was Nicholas Thurkettle, and the community loved him.
I like his outfit.
In early 2025, his dialogue in new patches would end up being unvoiced.
Damn.
The strikes against Genshin Impact weren't the only ones. Every Hoyoverse game was affected, including Zenless Zone Zero. So people assumed Nicholas was just participating in the strikes like everyone else. But on March 12th, 2025, he tweeted this out, saying, Proxies, which is the name of the
They advertise so much AI. Now, is it like ads for normal products made with AI and they're awful, or are they AI ads advertising AI made with AI? Something just fell. Made with AI type stuff? Oh god. Ugh. It used to be like you could laugh at them because they're so awful, but now that it's being shoved down our throats so much, it's just so bleak. Like, I can't even find them funny anymore because it's just like, man, this is what we're spending, like, trillions of dollars on, and we're using it to take away, like, fun stuff. We're not using it to, like, work on... Like, granted, medical AI innovations have been absolutely spectacular. Like, I will never criticize anything made for, like, benefiting the general public and, like, our health. But we're basically, like, most of the usage of it as of now has been just for ripping creativity away from creatives and giving us more time to do work rather than more time for leisure. And that's where I have beef. Exactly, AI can be... Yeah, exactly. There's so much artistic talent in this world, and we've been replacing it with AI. Yeah, I think, you know who has an amazing perspective on this? I have a feeling we're not going to get to playing Hawkeye today. Here, hold up. Do y'all watch Jarvis Johnson or listen to the Sad Boys podcast? Because I feel like he had a great perspective on this. I'll find it later.
I wouldn't even, okay, you know what's funny? I wouldn't even describe myself as anti-AI because I think there's a lot of nuance to artificial intelligence that has kind of been co-opted to like just mean a couple of things where AI has been a part of our lives for decades and will continue to be a part of our lives for the foreseeable future. And it's more about like, it's like I'm not anti-water, but I don't want clean water to go to certain people and dirty water to go to other people.
I want Flint's water to be good.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not that
it's
like water is...
And so and I just think that we are in this Wild West where regulation, first of all, even if you had an administration that was tough on corporations, which we don't, like the commissioner, right, of the FTC, you know, is now out, and they were a person who was doing a lot of these, suing a lot of these big companies and fighting against like mergers and corporate consolidation, and also anti-consumerist practices and monopolies. Like that type of stuff is like not going to be happening in this administration.
Yeah, that
like,
pushback is.
And so even if we
even
if we had that, this would still be fighting an uphill battle because the speed at which legislation happens is much slower than the speed at which technology typically develops. And AI has developed at such a dramatically fast clip. Like I like had a minor basically in artificial intelligence, like a specialization in my degree was in computer networking and artificial intelligence. Those are like my threads or my specializations. And I took like graduate classes in machine learning and things like that. And where the world was 10 years ago is like very, very different. Like we were not thinking about, we were using AI to like, you know, like some of the applications could be like solving a maze, you know, like identifying a face, you know, like some of these basic things. Like I had a project when I was in college in my computer vision class to like look at the 2012 presidential debate and like be able to face track Mitt Romney and Obama and things like that.
And it's such an exciting pitch always, and still is. Like it's such a remarkable technology.
It is.
It's very difficult to make the argument that the technology itself is not valuable, and it's very difficult for people that don't care to make the argument as to like the ethical implications.
Yeah, I just think that ethicists exist in the technology space, and I don't think they're as prominent as they should be, but I do think it's like very, very important. It's also why I think anyone studying anything technical should also study soft sciences, soft skills, communication, English, like liberal arts and things, because we can get in this very calculated view of the world, like
kind of libertarian mindset,
or just like utilitarian, even like just saying like, how do you qualify? Is this net good versus opposite?
Ayn Rand core. It is like, well, he had to make the best building.
Yeah,
that's the point.
And so that's the thing. So I'm just like, all that's to say that like I'm probably pro AI with a bunch of like asterisks, right? But the thing is, if I were to say that, what that means to someone isn't what it means to me, because of what the like sort of average understanding of what AI is. And so that's why we talk about this stuff, to try to add like nuance to like what is currently happening. And I think that a thing that we can all agree with is just carte blanche stealing from creatives or anyone is bad. And then using that to effectively repackage and systematize it for profit is bad.
And that's what's a little extra slimy about this too, is that it's, because you're right, the legislature will always struggle to catch up really to anything, because legislature has to follow, even in the current administration, should have to follow the same like stringent testing and system that a new medication would. It has to be a study, double-blind, placebo, everything should be reviewed. But diseases are always going to evolve faster than the medicine can.
That's because medical AI is clinical in nature, it's systemic and numericals. Yeah, exactly. It makes sense to have a robot do something that's calculated. So there's like a decent amount of nuance to AI. It's not like we should shoot everything down, but we're basically using it more to destroy all creative aspects in our lives and leave more time for work, which is exactly what the big corporations want, and, you know, not using it to do more work and leaving us more leisure time, which is, you know, what would benefit the general attitude of society.
Available and recorded multiple voice jobs in that time. I'm trying to learn more and absorb this news. On March 12th, 2025, Nicholas, as well as the community, found out that he was recasted. Another voice actor had affected.
God, anytime I hear Nicholas and recasted, my heart falls into my ass. I feel like my soul just disintegrates.
as Von Leon, shocking the entire community. A bit over an hour later, another voice actress by the name of Emery Chase had this to say: "Hey proxies, I was replaced as Soldier 11, another character in Zenless Zone Zero, because I am unwilling to perform work not covered by a SAG interim agreement during a strike for
I
AI
remember
protections,
watching
the
this from
outcome
the
of which will determine
sidelines
the
when it
future of our
happened on
industry.
Twitter,
Any other
but
theories that pop up are
not
incorrect.
being like
I'd like to
fully
clarify that there's a difference between being struck and not
in
being
the
on an
know.
interim agreement. Union projects that began work prior to the strike and non-union projects are not struck, but they also do not offer the union-enforced AI rights we are fighting for. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to..."
So they were just like not, like they had no obligation to strike, but they were doing. Okay.
create the art we love. I knew that by withholding work, it was possible I'd be replaced, though of course I hoped they would choose to leave us silent until I was able to return. I found out the role was recast today alongside all of you. I loved working on Zenless Zone Zero and would have been thrilled to return to the project.
I mean, that
post-strike
sucks
over
that
the
they
interim
didn't at
deal.
least let her
I stand by my
know.
choices regardless of the outcome. All my best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for a great ride, Proxies. So there you have it. Even though Hoyoverse is not part of the official SAG-AFTRA strike, Emery, as well as many other actors who are SAG-AFTRA and working for Hoyoverse, decided to strike independently from their union in solidarity with the actual strike. This was all in an effort to make Hoyoverse sign the agreement, even though they technically weren't part of the
I get
actual
it, but at
strike.
the same
Nicholas
time-
Thorkettle quote tweeted Emery's tweet and said, "This is what I've been quiet about. I'm not SAG, but what game companies want to do with AI is an existential threat. I took a personal stand to ask for protection and had to be willing to give up the best thing that's ever happened in my professional life. I stand by
Yeah,
myself."
like
But
companies
this kind of didn't really make sense.
could not
in
give
regards
less
to
of a
his first
shit.
tweet. Someone replied with, "So you were aware that they did reach out to you regarding returning to the role and you turned it down knowing you could potentially be recasted for this choice, and then went off to Twitter to say they never reached out to you since October?" Things weren't really making much sense, but at the same time, people were still on the voice actor's side. I mean, they were claiming that they were fighting for their own existence, that if they don't do this, AI will replace them fully. So they were excused for the sake of it.
Did you not want? No. I remember adding it to my watch later and then I completely forgot. But I've heard good things about this one. He beat me to what I was going to say about sending and say, yeah, exactly. Because, like, companies are fucking jackasses. Like, I get it from a personal perspective, but also you have to be aware that the giant conglomeration of fuck yous are going to say fuck you.
The bigger picture. These tweets made the actual studio, Soundcaddens, have to make some sort of a statement because a lot of theories were running rampant. This is what they had to say. From top to bottom, Soundcaddens Studios is a community of artists.
Yeah.
Have been raised regarding
Hey guys, companies, they kind of fucking suck. Just a little.
how we work with our voice actors, we wanted to take this opportunity to clarify where we stand and how we operate. Every contract at our studio features explicit AI protections regardless of union status.
Jack Black's popcorn pudding at Minecraft screen. Oh no. Chicken jockey. I still haven't seen the Minecraft movie.
Offer other performers work we would not be willing to take. The decision to recast talent on any project is not made lightly. While sometimes our hands are tied as to what we can communicate and when,
do
we understand
10
how
more
personally actors
seconds.
take their roles and always want to ensure that
So the thing about the Hoyo SAG stuff is kind of messy because the studios themselves are the one that do the AI protections, not the game companies themselves. Interesting. So can the companies not do AI protections? Like, how would... I mean, this video was, like, almost an hour and a half long, so I'm sure I'll find out. But, like, I feel like there's so much nuance in this that anybody in the industry would understand, but because it's so public-facing, it just turned into a shit show.
that no one is ever blindsided. Our studio has and will continue to honor legacy casting on all projects we've inherited whenever possible, and always reach out to actors to reprise their roles before investigating any other options. We respect the decisions of all actors in navigating the ongoing strike and fully support SAG-AFTRA and its AI negotiations. The passion of fan communities for video game characters and the people who bring them to life is further evidence that real human actors matter, and we will continue to bring voices to our clients.
Long text incoming. I'm ready. Here. I'll catch it. I don't have good hand-eye coordination, but I got you. Well, the game companies could also take a stand against the issue that are affecting their clientele while also having the looming threat of yeah. I love corporations and capitalism, guys.
Look, things became even more confusing.
This is awesome.
Because they said, we'll always reach out to actors.
I
for
love
funds
having
for
to
roles
fight to
before
survive.
investigating other options. But Nicholas claimed that he wasn't contacted for over 4 months. Additionally, Emery claimed that she was doing this for AI protections, but they're already present in the SAG-AFTRA's contract. She then specified that she only wants to work on a project that
I love being American.
So
I feel like I need wine for this. And I have a wine bottle that I need to get rid of. Go get that wine. Well, now that you insist, I can't decline your request. If you insist. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Don't threaten me now, okay? Okay, I guess I'll give in to your demands. Oh golly gee. Here, let me not flash y'all. Okay, Senna, here's your streamer. Let me know when Ark sends that long text. I'll catch it downstairs. Here are my hands. Oh, Senna, you have to catch the long text. Here, his hands are waiting. Oh my stars. Okay, I'll be back. I have returned. Bro, peak 3D yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I can't exactly get a 3D model. Ow.
which meant that she was a union member working a non-union project, which is against SAG-AFTRA's policies. Does a single figure make sense? No. But again, it didn't matter.
No, it doesn't,
People were still siding with the voice actors because this was the voice actor fighting against evil corporations and AI. They were always given the benefit of the doubt. Until one
fuck
day,
corporations.
all of the goodwill they had from all the community would come crashing down on their faces. Kinich is a Genshin Impact character available in its
I
newest region.
saw
At some
this
point, much like
drama.
many other characters in Genshin Impact, his English dub would go silent.
I
and
like
people had correctly
Kinich.
assumed that much like all the other actors, his actor
I came back to Genshin just for Kinich. Did I play any of the quests? No. But I got enough primos to pull him. And I have him. Where's my pillow? My back is starting to hurt. I'm getting old, y'all. I'm turning 24. What the fuck? I did get enough to pull for him, but I still haven't played any of Natlan or Fontaine. I think I'm right at Fontaine.
was also on a SAG.
Yeah, look at him.
strike.
Exactly.
But then,
He's
that
such a
voice
cutie
actor, John
patootie.
McNote, posted this statement on March 26th, 2025, saying, "Hey everyone, if you
Okay, but that name is such a mood. Street clothes shout. Oh my god.
act and are hearing Kinich speak for the first time in 6 months, it's not my voice. I've been recast. I've been withholding voiceover services during the SAG-AFTRA
that
strike because
sucks.
Voiceovers wouldn't offer AI protections in the form of a SAG interim agreement. They'd kept my character's dialogue silent for months. All the while, I had made the difficult decision to continue not going in until an interim agreement was signed, and this was ultimately why I was recast. Now, obviously, a recast is not what I wanted. I'd hoped that any progress behind
I wasn't
the scenes
saying
would be
oh god to
made
his
more
message,
safely,
by the
but
way.
if recast
I
auditions would have been
accidentally turned on my lamp.
colleagues wouldn't read for them. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I absolutely adored playing Kinich. Genshin was my comfort game during the early parts of the pandemic, and it was a dream of mine to book a playable character. At the time, I didn't have an agent, didn't live in LA, or had any connections that would get me close. But 4 years later, I did it, and the messages I've received from you all saying how much my performance as Kinich meant to you made my heart swell. I would and can return if Hoyo invites me back and signs an interim. I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. Also, the strike is still ongoing. Please don't believe this information on the internet. My best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for everything, JP. This came as an absolute shock to the entire community. Because here, there wasn't some weird conflicting story. This was John saying, hey guys, I'm striking, and I was directly recast because of that strike. Genshin is also a bigger game than Zenless Zone Zero, so of course, the stakes were higher. I also want to point out that getting an English dub role in Genshin Impact is actually a huge deal. It's a
Yeah,
massive popularity
like-
that this game gained during the pandemic. They were
Especially, I mean, it's not as huge. I mean, it's still huge, but it's not as huge now. During, like, 2022, 2021, like, all that shit, bro, that was celebrity status. Like, you made it if you got a role in Genshin Impact. like, that was the role to get, you know? Like, or... you know, like one of the roles to get.
They were one of the main beneficiaries of its popularity. This allowed them to grow their social media followings substantially, allowing them to land more roles. It was a major stepping stone in the industry. So getting a role here, as well as losing it, is a very big deal. But typically, when someone gets recasted in a controversial way, like with what happened with Emery, the replacement keeps it secret, at least for a while. This
I've
time, though, it
noticed
wasn't
that, yeah.
silenced at all, and it created total chaos. On the same day, the voice actor Jacob Takanashi would post this on Twitter, saying, "Role announcement. I'm honored to join the English English cast of Genshin Impact as the voice of Kinnich. Taking up the mantle of Malipo is a privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to carry the flame from the previous flamebearer, John, who did an incredible job. Those are big shoes to fill, and I promise to give it my all out of respect for him, for Hoyoverse, and for you, the fans. Thank you to Diana for their amazing direction and for helping me navigate the intricacies of this incredible game, and to Side Tokyo and Hoyoverse for the honor of bringing Kinnich to life. I'm deeply
Yeah, I remember feeling really bad for this guy. Like, I read his thing. I was like, I don't know. Like, I feel like he would, like, if he realized that he was doing something bad, he would kind of keep it on the down low. And I was like, I don't know. Like, something's not right. And then it was revealed that he was, like, in Japan and didn't know what the fuck was happening. And everyone was dogpiling on him. And, like, it's, you know, it's a shitty thing to be the replacement of someone. But I just felt so bad for him. I was like, oh shit. Like, now he has the whole internet and his coworkers fucking dogging on him. Like, I felt really bad for him. Like, is it shitty to kind of, you know, like, take over something that, you know, somebody's already doing? Yeah, but who knows what, like, he was aware of.
grateful for the privilege of entertaining you all. Now, yeah, you're probably expecting the Genshin community to be divided on this, with some people completely shitting on Jacob and others supporting him. What no one was expecting, though, is that the voice actors themselves would join in on this shit show.
Yeah, like, I did not expect that at all. I guess voice actors don't have PR training, because I feel like that would be PR training 101 to, like, not do that.
On this role. There was only one voice actor with something positive to say. That was Nathan Noakes, saying,
Long text! Long text time. How do you not jump at the opportunity? Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, what did he know? And what didn't he know? And it's not like we're in his head. Okay, Hoyo contracts out to the VA studios. The VA studios then have a list of actors that they work with. Sound Cadence is one of those studios for ZZZ. Honkai used a different studio which did not have any sort of AI protections. Okay, Hoyo has since no longer contracted out the studio for Honkai, which is messy because some of the actors are contracted out by that by that studio, not the game studio. Listen, man, just I miss him. Ah! I miss him. Oh my.
every other voice actor in these replies had something negative to say about this. Here are some comments from many voice actors, not just for Genshin Impact. Like, there are many reasons why
if Dan Heng gets recast, listen, this isn't a threat or anything, but I'm just saying, if Dan Heng gets recasted, I'm just gonna spontaneously combust. You know the whole phenomenon about spontaneous combustion in people? That's gonna spark up a huge controversy, and everybody's gonna be like, what was the catalyst for this girl spontaneously combusting? The fact that recasted Dan Heng, and then everybody's gonna look at the studio or Hoyo, and they're gonna be like, you guys made that girl spontaneously combust, that's really shitty of you, and then they're gonna get a lot of public backlash, and then I will listen to Nicholas voice Dan Heng from the afterlife. Yeah, like, pay your voice actors and give me my femboys.
For conditions, I have refused many auditions to take over roles from my peers because I'd never do that to another fellow actor. This was Jacob being publicly called out by a very well-renowned dubbed voice actress, but she was far from being the only one. Kaylee Mills, the voice actress behind Keqing and Genshin Impact, someone who greatly benefited from the explosion in popularity the game went through during the pandemic, had this to say: "This is actually kinda diabolical. If you need the money, at least take the role uncredited. This just comes off as an easy grab for clout. It's not a good look."
Oh wait, is that her model? Her model's cute.
This is another Genshin voice actor replying with 3 thumbs down, and then you had the voice actor behind one of the most recognizable characters in the entirety of Genshin Impact, Paimon, who's literally the mascot of the game, say, "This wasn't a passing of the torch."
Listen, I feel like whenever Karina comes up in a conversation, it just spirals. Like, anytime I hear anything about them, it's not the greatest.
And even going as far to say that there is a huge difference when you take the role of an actor who is striking for AI protections. "You are no castmate of mine." Now, these voice actors making these aggressive public statements probably thought that they were on top of the world, convinced that not only are they on the right side of history, but because they're on the right side of history, everything they say will be taken positively by the community. And you know what? Maybe in another world, it would have been the case. It just so happens, though, that they're using a platform that has something called community notes, and that's exactly what happened to Corinna, inadvertently triggering one of the biggest reputational catastrophes you could ever imagine.
I
Here's what the
vaguely
community
remember
note
this.
said. It should be noted that despite bullying another voice actor while using SAG-AFTRA as an excuse, Corinna themselves isn't on strike, even though they're American-based and the voice actor they're harassing isn't.
Yeah,
Whoa.
like... I feel like if anything were to get Hoyo to sign a contract, it would be Paimon saying, sign the contract or I'm not gonna work. 'Cause, like, yeah, March is, like, a big mouthpiece for Honkai, but you know how much longer Genshin has been around? And you know how much Paimon fucking talks? Do you know? Do you know how much Paimon talks? Because I unfortunately do. I feel like if Paimon's voice stayed the same, it wouldn't be that bad, but they told, from my understanding, they told Corinna to make it, like, more high-pitched or whatever.
That's a lot to take in. People started taking a step back and thinking,
Also, I might
"Wait,
have to
that's
turn on my
actually
fan.
true.
I'm
The strike has
sweating.
been ongoing for 8 months, and yet every single patch that comes out, Paimon is probably the only character that's still voiced."
Really?
Starting to deal with an
I didn't know
ever-growing
that. I
backlash,
dropped
but that didn't
Genshin.
discourage other voice actors from tweeting passive-aggressive tweets towards Jacob. This would contribute to negatively impacting public perception even
So why is Corinna not Oh, 'cause... Is it 'cause the others don't have to... Hold on, let me reassemble my brain. Hold on. The voice actors are striking on, like, a moral ground, from my understanding, for Hoyo, right? For, like, involving Hoyo games, right? So none of them have to strike? Formosa is a studio that Hoyo dropped, which is also okay. It's not a strike, that's what... Okay. But from what I've heard, from the most recent thing... This video is kind of old, so I don't know if it's gonna cover it. But wasn't Venti's voice actor directly told by SAG not to voice? 'Cause, like, if it's a refusal to work, like, I get it. Like, that's from a business standpoint, like, okay, buddy. But, like, from a business standpoint, obviously, not from, like, a moral standpoint or from my moral standpoint. Like, I totally get it. But didn't SAG, like, directly reach out to Venti, of all people, like one of the Archons, and we're going back to Mondstadt? Because, like, then I feel like that muddies the water of, like, a refusal to work versus a strike. Or are they just now cracking down because Hoyo isn't union?
This voice actor said, "I normally try to be pretty professional on here, but if you don't like me speaking out against actors scabbing and taking striking actors' roles, kindly fuck off. I'm not going to be silent.
Yeah.
About us getting ripped off and abused by
Yeah,
these companies."
exactly.
A scab is a union term that Jacob was called multiple times by other voice actors. It means someone who doesn't strike and continues to work. The voice actors of Sucrose from Genshin, as well as Venture from Overwatch, had this to say: "It's insane how entitled the gacha fanbase is, holy shit, keeping the characters hostage from us and hurting our experience. What? We're fighting for workers' rights. That's what a strike is all about. If this was the 1940s and we were striking, it would be based or some shit. I have no interest in arguing with people who'd rather see integrity replaced by scabs or AI. That's not what video games are all about. It's an art form comprised of so many beautiful artists doing their best, not about the money or fame or AI. I'm grateful that the projects I'm still working on offer humane protections and livable wages, and fan bases that aren't insane and appreciate real integral voices. Also, I know this isn't all gacha fans, but the replies to some of my fellows are horrendous. So
I feel like that's a good take on a like level perspective, like no nuance, no nothing. But I feel like there's so much nuance in this that just kind of like overview, generalized statement doesn't quite
People pointed out that Jacob wasn't even in the US, he was based in Japan, saying, you guys outright attacked a voice actor for being a scab when he's Japan-based, and the strike and union don't even exist there. If you didn't know, SAG-AFTRA is American. If you're based outside the US, you can't join SAG. Hard for a scab. He's an English voice actor. He can still scab even if he's based in a different country. I don't know if anyone told you, but audio transcends.
Gives you good insight to this. Okay.
The voice actors for
Yeah, I need that.
Some other big roles in anime quote tweeted John's statement and said, thank you for standing strong and holding the line with us. You're a real one. And then replied with, clears throat, some of us shaking my fucking head, referring to Jacob. This voice actor tweeted, say, are you Japanese or Japanese American, able to portray a 20s male character, can sing, have an excellent home studio? I've got a couple of colleagues in mind, but I would like to know more voice actors, except that one guy. Please DM me your website. Thank you.
That's just unnecessary.
The voice actor for either the male main character of Genshin Impact had this to say. Wow, on the day this happened. Now here's where the crisis really deepens for all these voice actors that made these public statements. Nathan Noakes, the only voice actor that was nice to Jacob when he announced his new role, said, right, I spoke to the new voice actor who lives and works in Japan, and he didn't even know what was going on. He came into an onslaught of criticism and didn't know anything about the strike or SAG, since SAG isn't in Japan, blows my mind. At that point, it was very hard to side with these voice actors that were dogpiling Jacob. The guy had no idea, and instead of reaching out to him, private messaging him, talking to him one-on-one personally, they chose to make a vicious example of him in public. As this was all going on, Corinna was too busy fighting a battle all alone, trying to prove to everyone that even though voicing a character like Paimon during a strike is scabbing, is justified, but not for Jacob, only for Corinna. This was Corinna's response to a fan pointing out the hypocrisy. No, you're right. I'm technically scabbing. I originally have this role, and technically I can still work.
Okay, so they admit it. Oh, okay. Okay.
I am a disabled person, and this is the job that puts food on my table as I actually record this role year-round. But I didn't take this role from another person who is striking. I had this role, and I am stuck in it because I have no other way to pay for my medical bills. But yes, technically I am a scab, and you're right.
Isn't everyone else striking also not having their bills paid? Or are they saying that, like, this is their only role? So, I mean, even...
Right. I don't deserve any praise right now. I don't deserve any of it. I deserve to be told off just like this actor, so please do. No one should look up to me. I'm trapped and a coward because I continue this job because if not, I end up homeless. I don't say that because I deserve sympathy. I don't. The ones sticking to the picket line deserve all of the praise, not me. I love voicing Paimon. Love it. I have been through so much that you guys will never truly understand, but I also know what I am and I should not be given any applause for this. If I could feasibly stick the line with my fellow actors, I would. This job actually barely keeps me alive. But that doesn't mean that it makes it different. It is not a good thing to my fellow actor that I continue to work on this game. I have struggled with that since the strike started, so call me out for this. Please, I deserve it. If it means we get closer to making things better, then so be it. So Corinna was arguing that the reason why Paimon is still voiced in Genshin during a strike is that so they don't end up homeless? Isn't that why everyone works a job to begin with?
Yeah.
Isn't that... I'm sorry, like, how does you being disabled have anything to do with this?
Correct. I think A, their only role, B, limited ability, C, medical... Okay. I mean, again, I get it. Like, obviously, you know, I'm not in their position, so, like, I can't empathize, but I can sympathize. Like, I understand. But to then be so loud towards ridiculing others...
Pointed out, so what? Many disabled people work remotely in other professions. Voice acting is not your only option if it puts you in such an unethical position. But you have to seek attention on twitter.com like a 16-year-old and present yourself like a saint of the whole community. To which Corinna replies with, I definitely don't present myself as a saint, but you don't know my disability and what I am able to do. This person said, I'm very convinced that you keep voicing Paimon because while people are unhappy that characters they love are unvoiced, like 90% of the player base would actually fucking cheer if Paimon was fucking That's so true. Look, if you haven't played Genshin, you have to understand. Paimon works as the mouthpiece of the main character. If she's not voiced, the game would actually be hurt beyond recognition. And to recast Corinna would be a nightmare because there are hundreds of thousands of games to re-record from the beginning.
I feel like he's making my point, or I made his point, since he, you know, obviously talked about this earlier than I did. Like, if anyone's gonna make Hoyo change, it's gonna be fucking Paimon. If I was the voice of Paimon, I would have so much fucking money and not have to worry about... Well, it depends on how much they're paid. Because, you know, like, at the same... Like, companies are shitty. Like, it doesn't really matter how how recognized the character is. So it depends on how much they're paid. And again, I don't want to pocket watch them. Like, that's just unnecessary.
Of the game until now. If anyone is gonna convince Hoyoverse to sign this agreement, it would be Corinna striking. But there you are, the most important role is still being voiced during a strike. How can you take any of this seriously? This is like when players tried to boycott Genshin by continuing to play the game every single day. Like, come on, dude. To be fair, Corinna did receive backup from Kaching's voice actor, Kaylee Mills. Unfortunately, though, this only ended up making them look worse because Kaylee was literally pocket watching Jacob's finance.
Look at how much time they're putting in compared to the other bit. Yeah. I mean, it's probably the medical bill aspect. Because they said, like, this job is, you know, just enough. Put a crystal ball on Throne. Oh my god. I need to update my Throne. Shit. I gotta do that after stream. I know some things sold out, and some things were purchased.
Oh, his wife's the breadwinner. Either way, they bought a house recently, so I doubt it was a necessary job for
good for them, though.
I think it's safe to say that I'm not
Houses
the only
are
one who
so
gets a
hard to
bad
buy
taste
in this
their mouth when we
economy.
read something like this, right? Not to mention that Kaylee very conveniently didn't mention that Jacob has children. He has a family to take care of. So how is it any different who'd be homeless if it wasn't for Paimon's voice acting work? The fact that he bought a house? There's something called a mortgage. And regardless, delving into someone's personal
like a house
finances
isn't
this
just
is
like a one-off.
unprofessional in any industry, period. They were trying their hardest to paint Jacob as this supervillain. Some fans joined in on this too, failing miserably. Here's someone siding with the voice actors trying to paint Jacob as a liar that knew about the strikes even though he said that he didn't. Showing a tweet he had made in 2023 saying that if companies used AI for a commercial, then he's just going to assume that the product is subpar. That's because he believes that if they can't afford
I
to
like
pay
his
for real,
tattoos.
authentic voice actors, then they also can't pay for quality assurance, research and development, and supply chains. This was community noted, and the message is SAG-AFTRA video game strike didn't start until July of 2024, so unless he can time travel, it's impossible for him to have been talking about the SAG-AFTRA strike way before it even happened. Also, generally being against AI usage is not conducive to being proof of being aware that SAG-AFTRA is on strike. As time went on, Jacob was being loved more and more by the community, while the other voice actors that stood against him were being gradually hated. And that's when they would try to play the villain.
I mean, again, is it fucking shitty that Kinich was replaced? Yeah. And if that guy deliberately, like, underhanded the guy, forgive me, I forget the original Kenich's voice actor's name. If he was, like, directly underhanding that guy, yeah, that's fucking shitty. But from what I've seen, this guy did not directly underhand the original Kinich.
The voice actress for Hu Tao from Genshin tweeted this out a couple days later, saying the harassment and bullying over the past day plus has been
Okay,
really
yeah,
unwarranted.
people take it
So
too
Brianna,
far.
unfortunately, tragically lost her little sister at some point in time, and this is someone emailing her with the username Brianna Dead Little Sister, saying that they hope
What
that she wants
the
some help. Bear in mind,
fuck?
there's worse things in this email that I cannot show at all because of YouTube, but you get the point. This is very, very
I hate
inappropriate.
people,
The voice actor
man.
June, who had made a tweet purposefully blacklisting Jacob from a role, said, "Genuinely, sincerely, I hope you find help. I really mean it. Troll behavior on Twitter is one thing, but sending direct emails is something else. It often
Yeah,
points to
like-
a pain that's deeper inside the person. Whatever that may be, Kira, I hope you find help that heals that pain." And it's an email that says that he should end it all, but with more direct language. Also specifying that all other voice actors who also criticize Jacob should do the same thing.
Like, those
Corinna
people
received
just,
the
like,
same-
ruin everyone's point. Like, if you think you're only making your point better, you are very sorely mistaken. Like, what the fuck?
exact email and said, "Guys, don't worry. My white blood cells are already trying to do that. It's just a matter of time. Be patient. Hashtag autoimmune."
That isn't funny, but I could see myself responding to something like that in that way. So that... It's not a funny situation, but it's a good
The
cutback.
voice actor would receive the same exact message, again from Kira. I don't know who Kira is, bro, but hey, you gotta chill.
Yeah.
The post said, "Love the community."
Kira's
Someone named Quote
unhinged.
Kira thought this was the appropriate thing to send me this afternoon. This prompted Jacob to quote tweet this tweet saying, "Hey, I know tensions are high, but don't do this, Jesus. If you send
Yeah.
this to anyone on my behalf, too far, man. Too far. Sorry you had this happen to you, Kiba." And now I'm seeing it wasn't just Kiba. Come on, guys, way too far. Suicide and threats? No. Just no. Knock it off. Someone replied to Jacob's post saying, "With respect, tensions would decrease significantly if you recognized and spoke publicly on the fact that voice actors aren't bullying you. If you truly didn't know about the strike, say so. If you did, say so. But voice actors are going to keep getting attacked until then." I shouldn't tell you that this was extremely controversial to say since it has 681 replies.
Yeah.
At this point, it was very safe to say people were tired of any voice actor that had something bad to say about Jacob. Kiba, the same person that had received that email, had posted a reply on the initial...
I feel like bringing this online, like the voice actors bringing their, like, personal beef with it online was just the start of a downward spiral. Like, I feel like if they kept it internally, like, just, like, messaging each other or messaging him and being like, hey, what the fuck is up with this? Like, that would have not kicked off so much shit. Especially because, like, you know, they're quite literally basically coworkers. Like, that I'm sure they have access to each other, like, to communicate with each other.
Kinich post. Someone had said, can we collectively please stop harassing this man?
It's yeah, exactly. Like, it's dragging the fans into something
Bully someone you don't even know when you can let Johnny
that they shouldn't have been dragged into.
Twitter warrior culture is disgusting. Kiba then said, please stop using the words bullying and harassment so freely. It is very obvious you don't fully understand why we are upset. It's called scabbing. End of story. It is bad regardless. If this were a different situation outside of a strike, which does affect everyone, it'd be different. A couple of days later, Kiba would tweet this. Getting followed just so people can shit on me is an encapsulation of how it feels to be a person of color and queer in this industry. To be honest, it's quite fascinating. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. This is purely happening because of your...
Okay. Are people directly attacked because of their sexual orientation or because of their, like, race and yes. Abso-fucking-lutely. I have seen that many more times than I could ever possibly count, and in a perfect world, I would never see that shit again. Is this person... or was, because this happened a while ago, being attacked because of those things? Probably a small amount were just sticking around, yes, but they were likely just being called out for their behavior. Like, there's no way everyone was just pointing fingers and laughing because of how they identify and how they were born.
Skin color and your orientation. 100%. Obviously. Things were looking really bad, okay? The community that had supported these voice actors on their strike for months was now turning against them very violently.
I love her
very
model,
quickly.
though.
This was the time to take a step
That's
back
such
and
a cute
reevaluate
model.
how to approach things, because clearly everyone was being harassed in some shape or form. But then SAG-AFTRA decides to step in personally and make things 1,000 times worse, opening up...
I genuinely fear her. Oh, wait, y'all can't see that. Who are we? Well, I mean, that's Yamiko, but, like, what? Why do they genuinely fear her? What happened? Why is she scary? I just see a pretty pink lady. What happened with Yamiko? Sorry, off topic. It just caught me off guard. Why does she strike fear in your heart?
A voice actor by the name of Aneris on Twitter had this to say. Hey, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero. We English voice actors would love to get back to work. I know the fans miss hearing their favorite characters and we miss voicing them. Please negotiate with SAG-AFTRA and sign the interim agreement to have us come back. What no one was expecting...
Thank you for sharing that. I was so confused.
And say what Aneris said. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, tagging all three of the biggest Hoyoverse games, right? And then saying, we'll make it easy for you. Here's a link to our interactive/video game media agreements. Let's talk soon. Wink face emoji.
Okay.
Now, look, this was a big deal, all right? SAG-AFTRA is negotiating with many
Yeah, because they weren't on the okay.
behind closed doors, but this was the first time they publicly called out someone like this. It almost seemed like they were trying to use public pressure to make Hoyoverse resume talks with them. Now, I'm sure whoever tweeted this out thought that they were a genius in the moment, but guys, whoever's running this account has probably been fired because this tweet alone has probably caused incalculable PR damage to SAG-AFTRA in this entire strike. Because on the next day, they got community noted. And it was extremely significant. Here's what it said. This agreement has severe limitations on how Hoyoverse can work with non-union voice actors, including a lifetime time limit for the voice actor, and eventually forcing the voice actor to either join the union, which has...
Did they link the contract and people, like, deep dove into it? Because I remember one of the several times where I was bitching about Donald not speaking, Ark was like, it is not what it seems. Like, it is not a good contract, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And I was just like, well, Don Hung's still muted. And I'm angry about it. And I'm still angry. Damn it. Give me my husband back.
large entry costs and fees, or stop working on the project, linking SAG-AFTRA's own website twice as the source for these claims. The first link is what we already looked at, showing how much it costs to join, $3,000, and a bunch of other fees to stay in. The second link actually included the SAG-AFTRA Independent Interactive Localization Agreement. This is what SAG-AFTRA is presenting to studios to sign it. It's 65 pages long, but what people were focusing on was Section 6 under Article 1.
65? I thought it would be longer. Because I watch a lot of, I mean, maybe I'm just used to, like, actual court documents, because I watch a lot of, like, Bo's true crime and all that stuff, and, like, just, like, true crime, like, documentaries and stuff, and they'll go through the court and it's, like, hundreds of pages, so 65 does not sound that bad.
Union security. It said, employer will only employ performers covered by this agreement who are members of SAG-AFTRA in good standing or those who shall make application for membership on the 30th day following the beginning of employment and thereafter maintain such membership in good standing as a condition of employment. Nothing in this agreement will be construed as preventing employer from hiring non-SAG-AFTRA members in according with the Taft-Hartley Act to perform in interactive programs. We'll get back to what this means later. But for now, they continue, employer shall pay to SAG-AFTRA as liquidated damages the sum of $500 for each breach by the employer of the provisions of this section. Any breach of this section is subject to arbitration. Each time the employer hires a performer
companies
in
don't like
section,
that.
it shall be considered a separate breach irrespective of the number of days of employment. It is
companies
the employer's
don't like that.
responsibility to ascertain if each performer is a member of SAG-AFTRA in good standing. Employer shall provide SAG-AFTRA the names of performers to be used in the production of interactive material no later than the time of hiring or 48 hours in advance of the initial sessions, whichever is later. SAG-AFTRA, making this tweet, thinking that they were going to publicly pressure Hoyoverse to talk with them, ended up backfiring because now people were reading the agreement.
I gotta say, guys, you know, I'm not a company or anything. You know, I'm not two companies in a trench coat, but I gotta say, if I can put myself in the evil, soulless mind of a company real quick, I wouldn't like that.
In depth when they didn't even bother to do so before. As I already mentioned, they were in full support of voice actors and the strike because they thought it was purely just about AI rights. And after seeing this, they started not just questioning the strike and the voice actors themselves with their behavior, but SAG-AFTRA as a union. At the same time, the Chinese community of Genshin Impact, they were just as confused as everyone else, with one user explaining in detail that Hoyoverse, as a Chinese company, was already under strict anti-AI rules in China.
Oh, wait, that's great. Because I remember people's beef with Hoyoverse is that they genuinely would replace you with AI. Like, absolutely. And I don't doubt that. Again, they're a company. They're a soulless company. But if Hoyoverse, the Chinese company, is told by the Chinese government that they can't... Okay, that's good.
Article 1023 of the Civil Code explicitly protects voice rights by referencing the protections for portrait rights. Unauthorized use of
That's great.
Voice, including highly similar AI-generated voices, constitutes infringement.
That's awesome.
A voice has identifiable characteristics like tone, intonation, or speech patterns that can be linked to a specific individual.
Dude, that's amazing. American companies need to have that. I mean, this is the first time hearing about it. But from the surface perspective, that's awesome.
It may still be deemed a violation of personality rights, even if the original recording was not.
Damn, China's government is on that shit. What the fuck? What's it like having a fast-working This is not me praising the Chinese government. Let me get that clear, okay? This is not me praising the Chinese government, okay? I will never praise any government, okay? Government sucks. But to have something so fast-working... That's gotta be nice.
Used. This law even covers using voices in different languages. The same Chinese user argued that if Hoyoverse were to sign the SAG-AFTRA agreement, they would face trouble in China because you can't join different unions as a Chinese company. You're already part of the all-China.
So then they would... The studio... Okay. So they would have to pressure the studios then. Which is what the general consensus was when I was bitching about Don. But okay, so Hoyo, okay. So they would have to make sure the studios are the ones that... Okay. The gears in my brain are turning. They're a little rusty. So they're grinding and stuttering and stopping, but they're turning still. They're trying. Mass censorship leads to full security and protection. Oh, gotcha. Give it... Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you will never catch me praising the Chinese government, but... You will never catch me praising the Chinese government. However, to have a situation in which government moves fast according to the time that the general public is in seems nice.
China Federation of Trade Unions. This left people with more questions than answers. But at the same time,
what was that
with All
called?
China Federation Agreement, they would face trouble in China because you can't join different unions as a Chinese company. You're already part of the All China Federation of Trade Unions. This left people with more questions
Sounds like a
than
cult.
answers. But at the same time, some others pointed out that, well, this is not true because Marvel Rivals actually signed the interim agreement, even though it was a game developed by NetEase, which is a massive Chinese corporation.
Really?
In this case, though, it turned out to be unique because NetEase weren't the only ones in this. They were obviously collaborating with Marvel, a massive
Yeah,
American
okay,
company. And
yeah.
since Marvel already employs a huge amount of SAG-AFTRA voice actors and performers, it only made sense that they would sign it, but not
Yeah,
as
that
NetEase,
makes
the
sense.
Chinese entity. It was Marvel, the American entity, that signed it on behalf of NetEase, who developed the game for them. So SAG-AFTRA and the voice actors were making this out to be like, oh yeah, you can just sign it, just sign the agreement, bro. It's very simple, but it's actually way more complex than they made it out to be. As confusion was running absolutely rampant, Koi Dao, the voice of Albedo in Genshin Impact, decided to use the huge following he garnered during Genshin's explosion.
Okay, I saw people on Twitter bitching about him, so I am very, and I did not know why. I follow him on Twitter, so I was very, I was very curious as to what got people to hate him. This very exactly. This very specific instance of protection laws is a very decent move. But yeah, Koi Dao seemed to have some decent takes when I mean, I don't have Twitter on my new phone anymore, so I check Twitter like once every 2 days. So I got like absolutely walloped by the Cinder news. So yeah, I have no idea what he said.
Explosion during the pandemic to clear confusion
Let's see.
about the strike. Around the time Von Licaon and Soldier 11's voice actors were let go from South Cadence, he made a little thread clearing some things up, saying, if you're just learning about the video game strike, I want to clarify a key detail I've seen get distorted a lot. Generally, the developer decides whether to sign an interim agreement, not the recording studio. Often, the studio is only a middleman, they do not set this term. A recording studio may offer AI protections in its
but
own
then
contract
Hoyo
with the
would
actor,
get
but this ultimately means very little because the developer owns the
trouble.
final recordings, not the recording studio. They cannot dictate how the developer uses that audio. If the developer does violate the AI protection clauses in that contract, then the burden of enforcement would be on the actor. Often, that means one guy having to lawyer up against a multi-million/billion-dollar company. This is what we mean by
Yeah.
enforceable AI protections, because while we are deeply grateful for any recording studio's personal support in the strike, the fact remains they do not have the power or resources to protect us or meaningfully enforce any AI clauses in our contracts. Currently, only a SAG interim agreement can effectively do that, as it would be backed by the union's legal resources.
Okay.
By a big company on the appropriate scale. That's why actors are holding the.
So from what I've gathered, studio cannot sign because, well, they could, but it really wouldn't mean anything because then they ship it off to company and company decides what to do with it. So it really would not matter. Without SAG, one person versus multi-billion-dollar company, not good. So SAG helps lawyer up versus multi-billion-dollar company. However, multi-billion-dollar company based in China cannot sign because then they get in trouble with their government. At this point, I'll sign the fucking thing. Actually, no, wait. Because the contract I have a headache.
The line and why outrage at a recording
The
studio
Cinder-
can hit.
yeah,
So this
that-
did clarify a couple of things. Why the interim agreement is so
I hate
important,
fake
because
people.
it means that the union will back you up legally if problems arise. But on March 12th, when this post was made, people were already on the side of voice actors. When things started shifting, though, he made another post after SAG-AFTRA's disaster of a quote tweet, saying, taps the sign with incomprehensible force. Any video game can bring back their full voice cast immediately during the strike once they agree to enforceable AI protections via a SAG interim agreement, and the game
Okay.
can still keep its non-union actors after doing so. This is
But
not-
they can't. But China says no. What? How would I have a bigger headache. Honestly, if the union sets me up with an agent as well, the SAG contract might not be the worst. Yeah, exactly, because you would have someone reading through it. Okay.
Not a union actor versus non-union actor conflict. The goal of the strike is to ensure that this craft isn't lost to AI. We've got a common goal, which is why so many
Yeah,
non-union actors are
exactly,
holding the line
yeah.
alongside
We
their
don't want
union
AI
castmates, despite
taking
having no
over
obligation to
everything.
do so. Non-union actors are among those getting recast across the industry right now because they were holding out for enforceable AI protections. They understood that without these protections, the job disappears for all voice actors, and I desperately don't want their sacrifices to be in vain.
Yeah,
But again, this
that's-
post's problem is that it doesn't answer the main questions. Why is it that the union security clause sounds so weird in the contract? Why does it seem
Yeah.
like this is targeting non-union voice actors, forcing them to join after 30 30 days. Some people were starting to have doubts that this was very simple. Like this person saying, I'm just a dude on the internet, and it's not that I don't believe you, it's that I've been around on the internet to know nothing is that simple. There's always some bullshit you or whoever can't get into otherwise. Why isn't it being done already? Koi replies with, hey, fortunately, with regards to this specific matter, it is that simple. Agree to enforceable AI protections and the voice actors can return. Over 150 games so far have signed on to the interim and were able to bring back their casts. It's happening right in front of our eyes. But we saw it with our own eyes, right? How there's 65 pages.
Is there any precedent of a Chinese company signing a SAG contract? Because if there, I mean, aside from like Marvel, the Marvel Rivals thing, but even then, like Marvel signed it on behalf because they're basically like half an American game at that point. Because it's literally Marvel Rivals. So is there a company like unaffiliated with any like American copyright that signed it that we can like look towards? And be like, okay, that company did it, so why isn't Hoyo doing it? The issue is Hoyo could sign the contract, but then any Hoyo VA, including Chinese-based workers, would then have to file under SAG contract and okay. Got you. How fun.
Pages to this contract, and there's only 12 mentions
I need
of
more
artificial
wine.
intelligence. 12 on 65 pages. What are the other pages for? And why does it seem like non-union actors get screwed over with this deal? Someone asked, where's your source that they can still keep non-union actors? Every other agreement made suggests otherwise. Koi replies with, the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947 by law prohibits all labor unions, including SAG-AFTRA, from unilaterally barring non-union workers from union jobs. If a production wants to keep/hire a non-union actor, all they have to do is fill out a one-page form for that actor. Well,
Why do I feel like it's not just gonna be a one-page form? Not because of anything Koi Dao is saying, but because this is an act of 1947. An act. Oh, aka government.
wait a second. I mean, if all you had to do was just fill up one page and keep working as a non-union actor, then I guess signing this contract is as simple as Koi is saying, right? Unfortunately, though, people were right to doubt this. Nothing is ever that simple. And for you to understand that, you need to understand what the hell a Taft-Hartley Act even is. Look, after the Wagner Act in 1935, unions were not only allowed to exist legally, but they also gained a ridiculous amount of influence. After World War II, they organized countrywide strikes that severely hurt the economy. In 1945 alone, almost 400,000 workers from different industries striked, and in 1946, over 1 million from different industries striked as well. Not to mention that things like union shops were becoming too prevalent. The government was slowly becoming more and more anti-union, and in 1947, they revised the Wagner Act with the Taft-Hartley Act. This made it illegal to have a union shop of any kind and prohibited certain types of strikes, like wildcat strikes, which is when unionized workers strike without the approval of their management. One of the most important aspects of this act was to give workers back some of the power that the unions
so that's why they have to vote. So that... A million is crazy, right? Like, damn. And with them strong-arming the other VAs into the union like that, they then monopolize... Yeah, exactly. Like, again, like, absolute power. We do not want to give anyone absolute power. I really think there should be other unions. Like, the fact that SAG and AFTRA is now one, which I did not realize that. Like, having a monopoly again, or a monopoly with the entire entertainment industry under your thumb. That is not good, my dude.
Away from them. They could, for example, leave a union immediately without consequences.
That is exactly the issue you were trying to combat against.
And if a strike was ongoing, they weren't allowed to work. But more importantly, this...
Yeah, monopolies are supposed to be illegal. Supposed to be Ticketmaster! They're supposed to be illegal. You know what's also illegal? Pyramid schemes. You know what exists? MLMs.
This act allowed states to enact right-to-work laws. This gave workers the freedom to choose whether or not to join a union in their workplaces. Complete freedom. But you might be wondering, why is this necessary if union shops were made illegal? Well, it gets a bit complicated. There are currently only 26 out of the 50 American states that have right-to-work laws. This means that I can join any industry without ever, and I mean ever, having to join any kind of union, period. But if a state has no right-to-work law, then they must follow the Taft-Hartley Act, which states that if you were to join an industry that has a union contract, you have to join that union after 30 days. Again, if you're European, you must be very confused right now.
Yeah.
I am too. But as you can very
What the fuck? I was just reminded of France. What? I know why not, because this is America. The greatest country in the world. Like, imagine a union fighting for rights and then everyone gets that. You know what else is illegal? Robbing the automotive shop that took $200. Yeah, exactly. That is illegal. So we shouldn't do it. God forbid my auto shop ever sees this. They're so nice, too. They're really, really sweet. I'm not mad at them. I'm mad at the fact that I was put in a situation where I had to pay over $1,200.
See on this map, California is not a right-to-work state. And according to SAG-AFTRA's own website, this is what the process looks like if you want to hire a non-union actor. First, you have to submit
Oh, he's gonna run
compliance
it over.
documentation. The Taft-Hartley form is required by producers who intend to hire non-union actors under specific conditions. The form must explain why a non-union member should be hired over union talent. This can include actors having special skills, they are famous, have certain physical appearances, among other qualifications. The union will review each Taft-Hartley form and decide whether the non-union actor meets the criteria to be eligible. 2. 30-day window. Once the non-union actor is approved to be hired under the Taft-Hartley form, they have 30 days to work on a union project without being required to join SAG-AFTRA. And then 3 talks about union eligibility. But one thing's for certain, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, wait, this kind of just sounds like a union shop with extra steps. You're forced to join the union. Not to mention that this compliance documentation step makes things more complicated. I mean, seriously, reviewing every single form individually and deciding on whether you can hire them or not? You want to know what's even better? On SAG-AFTRA's own website, in their FAQ section about this, they have a question titled, how long does it take to process a Taft-Hartley report? Their answer is, due to the high volume of new media productions, please allow at least 6 to 8 weeks for principal Taft-Hartley reports to be processed. Please note, Taft-Hartley reports will not
Mouth dropped so much I yawned.
This paperwork includes the cast clearance report, example, timesheets, performer contracts, and final cast list. What is this, man? Am I applying for a visa? Slowly but surely,
Yeah.
we start to understand why Hoyoverse would not be interested in this. They're hiring studios with AI protections to find voice actors on their behalf. Why would you subject yourself to such bureaucracy? So if I tell you right now that more than 80% of voice acting gigs use a non-union contract, would you be really surprised? But technically, as a union member, you're not really allowed to work these non-union jobs. So what's the alternative? How do you avoid SAG-AFTRA's wrath? Well, you become something called FICOR. This means that you can work on non-union jobs even if a strike is ongoing. You still pay the dues every year to SAG-AFTRA, but you can't claim any of the benefits. As an added bonus, SAG-AFTRA actually calls you a scab if
So what's the fucking point? You pay them, you get nothing out of it, and you get called a scab. SAG-AFTRA Legal cannot represent you. Turning financial core means you become a fee-paying non-member. It means that you get dumbass tattooed across your forehead. Cannot represent themselves as SAG-AFTRA. In order to be considered for reinstatement into active membership, FICOR would need to submit a petition for reinstatement. If approved, there are also financial obligations, are viewed as scabs, cannot take advantage of member-only benefits, reminder, if you are choosing financial core because you were asked to work on a non-union project, you're missing out on an opportunity for the union to organize a project for you and all SAG-AFTRA members. We may be able to organize the project before you make a decision that could significantly affect your career. So if you're FICOR, you basically have the circus music playing around you 24/7. Like, what? So you can continue to work to pay your bills without breaking your union contract. So you can go back to your long-term gig post-strike. But also, like... But they aren't because SAG can't pick up a non-union... Yeah, like... And if they're calling you a scab, you would basically be blacklisted by people who don't know any better. Because you hear scab, and you're like, oh, that piece of shit. Because a lot of the times... Most of the time, scabs are pieces of shit. Because they're just undercutting. How hard would it be to get back into SAG? 'cause, like, if it's easier then, like, if it's only, like, a half drop, and then you can just get right back into it, but like, this makes it seem like it would be harder. Some contracts pay a lot of money for long-term work. If you leave the union, you lose. Okay. Okay. And since you're technically... Okay. 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 I get it. Gotcha. I mean, okay, so they're just stuck in a really shitty situation. Okay, so they don't have dumbass tattooed across their forehead. I rescind my statement. Okay. I get that. Okay. 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 The gears are turning.
Are viewed as scabs or anti-union by SAG-AFTRA members, directors, and writers, most of whom also belong to entertainment unions. By the way, this entire page about FICOR on SAG-AFTRA is literally just begging you not to do it, okay? It's like, please, like, you are losing this is the worst decision of your life.
Yeah, like, it sounds like a horrible decision.
You're essentially exiling yourself from SAG-AFTRA. It is extremely hard to join again. The more people kept digging.
So it's not easier. Oh my god!
About how SAG-AFTRA works, how the Taft-Hartley works, and how complex all these terms are, the more they became disgusted with SAG-AFTRA and the strike and the voice actors acting entitled on Twitter. Coy understood this and tried his best to answer these questions that people were asking all over social media to the best of his ability. He does specify that a Taft-Hartley can be extended 3 times, up to 90 days. He then answers a question that says, but it sounds like the Taft-Hartley process can be exhausted and that actor will have to join eventually.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I don't like that they have to join. Like, if it was free, okay, but you have to pay a significant amount of money. I don't like that they have to. Because, like, if you get a gig, you're not guaranteed a livable income. But that gig could also be a stepping stone, so you don't want to miss out on it. Yeah, I don't like that they have to join. I don't like it. I don't like forced decisions in general. Yeah, so it's paying them for job security post-strike, but they still need to work somehow, so the non-union contracts are the aim here. Then they call them scabs because they're taking jobs that they wouldn't be able to pick up anyway. Yeah, it's the worst part of monopoly. Yeah, it all comes back to it being a scummy fucking monopoly. Man, I hate Monopoly. That's why I never played that game. No one kidding.
Actors required to join if they wish to continue working on union projects. However, with the ongoing strike, the SAG negotiating committee has publicly stated that they want to help non-union actors keep their jobs and eliminate whatever complications they can to that end. As such, they are able to negotiate a waiver for the must-join rule. This would be granted on a case-by-case basis, and the details of such a waiver would be determined in negotiations between the production and the SAG negotiating committee. The next question is, the production has to negotiate, so it's not a guarantee? I don't like that. To which Coy responds, bro, I promise they're not going to flip a coin to decide whether or not to grant the waiver. Negotiations are necessary, if only to make sure neither party is conditioning their commitment on some kind of loophole that undermines the other. And with the existential threat of AI, it is very much in the union's interest to grant these waivers wherever they can to get production.
Yeah, I get negotiation.
So again, guys, this is all for AI. No matter what, this is all for AI protections, even though it's only mentioned 12 times in the interim agreement. This is the true
God.
One question says, I'm still not comfortable with this requirement to join. Sounds like a big organization bullying the little guy. To which Coy responds, I understand how this whole situation can give off that impression, and it's worsened by all the misinformation and anti-union propaganda out there. SAG-AFTRA is not a corporation. It is a non-profit labor union, albeit one comprised of very annoying theater kids.
But they're a monopoly. That's the thing. Like, I would get his point, right? Like, I would understand where he was coming from if, you know, it was a non-profit labor union amongst many others. But they're your only option. And they can just you from, like, anything if you piss them off, is what, you know, I'm understanding. So it's not it doesn't have the charitability of a non-profit labor union. Yeah, exactly. If it wasn't the only $2.2 billion. No, $2.2 is my net worth. Listen, okay, y'all, force my hand to get the wine. I might misspeak a little bit. Because, yeah, like, you hear non-profit labor union, And you're like, oh, okay. But then you look at, like, the nitty-gritty details of this nonprofit $2.2 billion monopolized labor union. And you're like, hey, what's that? What's that detail about $2.2 billion in monopoly? Wait, what? What was that? Let's look into that a little bit more. And it's by annoying theater kids.
But a union nonetheless. Its sole purpose is to ensure the health and safety of actors and to protect them from exploitation.
That is a very big purpose, yes. But people are inherently selfish little shits. And when you have selfish little shits that run a monopoly, good stuff does not happen.
Funded by membership dues. That's why there's a limit to the Taft-Hartley process. If there were no requirement to join, nobody would join, and those protections would become financially unsustainable.
Okay, I do get that point. Wait.
Which, along with the health insurance plans and on-set emergency staff, are funded by membership dues. That's why there's a limit to the Taft-Hartley process. If there were no requirement to join, nobody would join, and those protections would become financially unsustainable.
Because you know that whole thing with starving artists and, like, struggling actors? I'm trying to think of if there was, like, a minimum income required. I'm trying to remember if he mentioned that. Was there a minimum income requirement for, like, the benefits? Like, the health insurance and shit? Do y'all remember if he said anything about that? Because if there's no requirement, like, if there's no minimum threshold that you have to hit, I get that point. Because then that would be financially unreasonable for the union. I would be curious to see, how can I phrase this? If there is because again, kind of like, I'm very into anti-MLM content, right? So I would be curious to see how many, if there is a threshold, how many people meet that threshold out of SAG-AFTRA as a whole. Because, you know, when you, like, look into MLM, like, their like, monetary data, and you see, like, oh, all of these people, like, the big chunk of people down here only make, like, $20 a year. And then there's, like, the 0.2% that make a livable income. Like, obviously, I feel like SAG would have been just absolutely blown out of the water if that was the ratio. But I would be very curious to see that ratio of, like, people benefiting versus people joining an attempt to benefit. If that makes sense. It could very well not make sense. I am horrible with words. I could just be talking in circles.
He ends this with a question that says, this is still a lot of maybes. Why should I believe you?
That's a really cute dog. Wait, oh, you can't see it. His name is Turnip! I love Turnip. I would die for Turnip. Okay, back to the video.
You sound like a union shill, to which he replies with, my dude, I totally understand that none of this is close to perfect, and I'm not a union fanatic by any means. There are multiple documented instances of me publicly calling out the union leadership.
Okay, that's
AI
good.
eliminates this job, and it won't matter how any voice actor feels about the union.
Yeah.
Voice acting will be a thing of the past. I want
That
to make
is
sure
a
this
good
job
point.
still exists in 5 to 10 years for all aspiring voice actors to have a shot at chasing this dream, and the union is the only sufficiently powerful tool we have to that end. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if making sure that non-union voice actors can still work is your main concern, you gotta bet on the entity trying to save this art from extinction, not the one with the incentive to replace all actors with AI.
Okay, I
know
get
it's not
that point.
But we can't wait for the perfect solution when AI is at the doorstep and already replacing human voice actors. It is significantly easier for actors to fix the imperfections of a labor union, which is beholden to its members and relies on public support, than it is for any one of us to individually dictate the actions of a multi-billion-dollar company. In
Yeah.
other words, he says, TLDR, I'm not a huge fan of the union, they are a means to an end. So no
Yeah.
matter how weird or counterintuitive,
I feel like those were great points, but I feel like because he is very public facing, if SAG-AFTRA then tries to pull any sneaky shit, he's gonna get more backlash than he actually deserves because he's more public facing than the massive shadowy entity that is the giant monopolized labor union. Which would suck for him. And considering I saw people not liking him on Twitter, I feel like that might have happened.
of some of the contract might be, it's all justified because it's all about AI. And while I understand his viewpoint, it's not really the answer you're looking for.
Andy is a really cute dog named Turnip.
But Coy wasn't the only one trying to rally people back into joining this cause. Another Hoyoverse voice actor by the name of Kyle McCarley put some confusion. The only problem is that, again, people were left with more questions than answers. It wasn't a very popular post. The top comment was wondering, why doesn't SAG-AFTRA just come out and make an official statement to clarify things and clear up confusion and misinformation for the general public?
Where am I from? The great US of A.
This is a very good point. Why are voice actors having to do the union's job? Someone else pointed out the contradictory nature of this
of course.
One of the bullet points said there is no requirement imposed by SAG-AFTRA for all performers hired on a union
Sure
project.
do love
Such a requirement would in fact violate U.S. labor law. But
America.
then goes on to say, once those 30 days have expired, they become must join. Honestly, at this point, not saying anything would have been better, because every time a voice actor tried to clear up misinformation, they only ended up confusing people even more. People were starting to conclude that this entire strike was nothing.
Yeah, this is that is a good ass little graph here, or picture. Really amazing background. Thank you. I like collecting stuff. I like trinkets. Oh my god, I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, I remember. I feel like, again, like this was all brought to the public so heavily. Like, I feel like they just took like a massive binder and it was like SAG-AFTRA strike, and then just like whacked people over the head with it. Like, you would get it, like I said before, like you would get it if you were in the industry, but these people aren't in the industry, and also they're on Twitter. Like, you're dealing with the general public, and the general public is not going to just understand. And so when you have something with such nuance and you take it to Twitter, it's just gonna explode.
Voice actors, but in reality, only had voice acting monopoly in mafia practices. But we're not even talking about the real issue yet. The real issue is the fact that this strike's weird contradictory nature made people want to look more into SAG-AFTRA as an organization.
Yeah.
Finding out wasn't really pretty. Remember the strike in 2023 done by SAG-AFTRA? This was wages, and more importantly, AI protections. Well, it turned out that many people were disappointed with these so-called... This article from Prism said this. Critics of the deal who spoke to Prism were most concerned about the sections on generative AI, which is used to create synthetic performers or digitally created assets that are not any specific human performer, but generated entirely through AI. This is uncharted territory. SAG-AFTRA member, actor, and director Satu Luna in Los Angeles believes the union should have stood against its use, period, rather than trying to get with it. It's very easy to replace it.
Like, why?
She said. We shouldn't normalize it. The protections also include some significant loopholes. For one, for AI involving the participation of human actors, Schedule F performers who make more than $80,000 for a film are exempted, and consent is not required from actors if the photography or soundtrack remains substantially as scripted, performed, and/or recorded. Prior consent given can apply for future features if the producer includes a reasonably specific description of the intended use.
So they're not even giving proper AI protections. Is that what I'm... My eardrums are working, right? My language processing brain folds are functioning? Is that what I'm hearing? They're not even giving proper AI protections? I still have a headache.
Language that could be interpreted broadly by producers. So if you make more than $80,000 on a film, those AI protections don't even apply to you, not unless specified, which is counterintuitive. Why did the strike even occur to begin with?
Yeah.
Money. You know what's really interesting? Only 14% of SAG-AFTRA performers make more than $26,470 annually. Remember those wonderful benefits you get for signing up to SAG-AFTRA? One of them being health insurance? Yeah, you could only qualify for it if you make more than $27,500.
Just call me the Monopoly Man, the way I love monopolies. I love dick riding. Monopolies are great. I love getting fucked in the ass with a chainsaw by corporations. This makes my soul hurt. I'm keeping my eyes closed because I don't even want to look at what's in front of me. I hate when good things that are supposed to be good have things representing them that then corrupt the view of the good thing and ruin it for everyone. Especially when this government is becoming increasingly anti-union and increasingly upping the amount of dangerous work practices that unions would typically be the ones fighting against. And I love that said anti-union government is trying to change the opinion of the general mass public about unions when we need unions, good unions, more than ever. Do you see this shit, Cinema Roll? Do you see this? I can't because I'm willingly closing my eyes, but do you see this shit, Cinema Roll? Doesn't it enrage you? No, I'm just kidding. You're not capable of rage. You're Cinema Roll. It's giving that one I'm cooked meme with the dog's eyes closed. Huge nice reaction. Thank you. I'm glad I could entertain. What does this mean? What does the no AI protection mean? They basically are making their whole campaign on AI protections and then turning around and being like, let's, what's it called? Fence riding? Let's fence ride a little bit. I think taking such a harsh position in one direction or the other is actually damaging. That's basically what they're doing. Sorry, my contact is bothering me. They're not staying completely neutral, but they're giving leniency. And when you give leniency to something or someone that won't give you that same leniency back, you will get fucked over. Like, not even 99% of the time. Like, you will get fucked over. And while you're not currently getting fucked over, and you can point to that and be like, no, they're not doing anything, they will do something. And they're having people strike, and having those people lose their income, who are not worth $2.2 billion, and they're staying neutral. They're not staying neutral. They're giving them leniency. They're giving them an inch, and they will take a mile eventually. If not now, then in the future. Yeah, they're being stupid. When we learned that, like, oh, you're gonna be forced to join the union eventually because it's financially a shit show if you don't make people join the union, and then those people take advantage of all the benefits. Now we're finding out that only 14% of people in SAG, because I think it was 14, right? 14% actually meet the benefit requirements. 14%. And they have a complete monopoly on not just the industry, because there's plenty of non-union people, but unions as a whole. The tool to protect people. They have a monopoly on it. That makes me angry.
Means that over 86% of people who paid the $3,000 initiation fee and are part of SAG-AFTRA.
And you still have to pay them yearly. So that means those people who are making under $27,000 a year, that is poverty line. That is poverty line. I, at my job, and again, this is not to brag. Like, I do not work an amazing job, and I make more than that. That is poverty line. And they have to pay SAG yearly while still making less than $27,000 a year. The more I think about it, the angrier I get, so I'm gonna stop thinking.
On one of its most important
which is not very hard for me.
And if you do actually end up
There,
getting
I've
the
stopped
healthcare
thinking.
coverage, well, your information is just going to leak anyway. Because on December 10th, 2024, SAG-AFTRA went through a data breach. And according to this article, personal information obtained in the breach includes names, social security numbers, and health insurance details. And the union, SAG-AFTRA, only notified these members almost 3 months after the incident. Isn't that wonderful? You pay $3,000 to join a union, right? You're finally making money as an actor. And now someone can steal your identity movie and you only are told about it 3 months later. But it's okay, because the chief of SAG-AFTRA is making over $1 million every year, guys. People weren't fooled anymore. They started siding with Hoyoverse the more they felt the taste of disgust.
Do you see this? I shouldn't even expose him to this. I shouldn't. I'm sorry, my son. I'm sorry. Erase that from your brain. I'm angry. You know what, Senna? You shouldn't even see this in your peripherals. Hold on. Hold on, my precious boy. Do you like his birthday outfit? I'm taking him to my birthday party, and I was like, oh, he needs a birthday outfit. And so, I put my sweater on him, and then I raided my mom's closet for his little button-down, because I don't have any blue button-downs. Hold on, Senna, you shouldn't be seeing this. There we go.
But just as you thought that things couldn't get worse, just as you thought that this taste of disgust in your mouth couldn't get more rancid, some voice actors, instead of logging off Twitter, decided to keep being dorks, making this way worse than it should have ever been. Kaylee Mills, the voice actor who had already tweeted...
No!
had this to say. SAG winning the strike means that their contracts will all have AI protections going forward. It doesn't make every game union. Also, I've worked on...
The thing is that makes this, like, so shitty is that it's all on the basis of a good fucking thing. Like, no shit, voice actors shouldn't be replaced by AI. That's horrible. But now you have people rallying for this cause that looks so fucking bad that it's gonna turn people in the opposite direction. She still is a really cute model, though.
On several union games with international talent, a game-going union does not bar that talent from working. Technically, no union actor should work non-union at all, but we do all the time. It's always been that way in voice acting. It's not necessarily fine, but it still is very different from taking an existing role from someone who vacated that role withholding work for AI protections. That's why you don't see anyone...
But
calling
was
out
he
any of the
aware
actors
of
that want to
that?
do new non-union roles. It's because while as much solidarity as possible helps the cause, no one really expects everyone to be perfect allies. Well, I mean, this begs the question, right? Okay, fine. We've already talked about AI protections. We've already seen how this strike is meant to make healthcare more affordable and raise rates or whatever, but like, is Hoyoverse really that bad of an employer? Are they underpaying these voice...
But again, only 14% of people... And of course, people who are poor need healthcare the most. They're paying this money to SAG. They're making below the poverty line. Of course they need fucking healthcare. You think they could pay out of pocket for a doctor? I don't care how many ZocDoc sponsorships people are taking. That's just unrealistic. And that's healthcare. That's not going on vacation. That's something to survive as a human being. And of course, so many voice actors are also people who are like people with disabilities, because voice actors, you know, you don't need to like move around a shit ton. Like, it's not a very physically like movable, demanding job. So of course people with disabilities are going to gravitate towards that, and people with disabilities need fucking healthcare. I love America.
Voice actors? Are they subjecting them to slave labor? Is this evil Chinese company exploiting our beloved voice actors and underpaying them? Is this why we really need a contract to be signed right now? No. According to Kaylee, even though the game is non-union, many of us are making the union rate. So what are we doing? Apparently not enough, because shortly afterwards, Kaylee deleted her Twitter account. Probably for the best, because God knows what else she would have said that would have hurt this strike even more. But it's okay, because this is like a tag team wrestling match. Kaylee's out.
No, not
Guess who's
Corinna.
in now, Corinna, the voice actor behind...
God
Mom
fucking
decided to
damn
post
it.
an
And again, if any points that I'm making, or if any connections that I'm making are wrong, please correct me. I would like to be wrong in this scenario so that it can appease my anger. Like, I am not going to just shove my foot up my own ass and stand by my own points. Like, I welcome being wrong. if I am actually genuinely wrong. I would prefer to be wrong so that the circumstances then aren't so shitty. Like, I am genuinely peeved. I am irritated. You know how much it takes for me to actually get genuinely agitated? Like, I am upset. What the fuck?
Unhinged on TikTok, and I could try to explain it. Probably won't succeed, so just watch, okay?
Okay, here's the thing. If voice actors, both non-union and union, in a video game want a game to go union, the game should go union. Nobody else's opinion matters. That's it. And YouTubers don't know anything. YouTubers don't know anything. They're not voice actors. They've never been in my industry. They don't know what my industry is about. They don't know anything about SAG. They don't know anything about being a non-union actor either. Stop telling me to go to liars.
So then don't make the issue so public for people to weigh their opinions on it. If you don't want people to speak, don't give them an opportunity to speak. Just keep it to yourself. Because I've said repeatedly, I feel like making this so public-facing for people not in the industry was a bad idea. But weren't they one of the main people making it so public? And then is now getting angry because people are peopling? And they are also deeply looking into things? Okay.
Liars. They are paid to lie to you. Also, I'm sorry. They have...
Please pay me. I got $1,232.99 to pay off. Please pay me. Actually, wait, let's check my YouTube AdSense. I have made, it's gone up. The last time I checked it was 20 cents. I have made, fuck, I just locked my phone. Sorry, I'm still not used to the buttons. $1.13. I am being paid to lie to you. Did you know that the earth is flat?
more incentive to lie. They have more of an incentive to lie because idiots like you fall for their shit and they get paid for that. Hello? God,
yes, almost $2.2. Yeah.
I don't know, function, and that everybody gets paid and everybody gets, like, healthcare? Did you know that, like, once things become union...
Okay, but everyone doesn't get healthcare. That's the issue. 14%. 14%. 86. No. 14. What's 100 minus 14? Yeah, 86% of people do not qualify for the things that make a union good. The reason the union exists is to be for the workers and to help the workers. That is not a thing that should be debated. The concept of a union is fucking phenomenal because when you have people in absolute power who have the ability to fuck you over, they will fuck you over because they have no emotional attachment towards you and people are inherently selfish. We need unions for a reason. However, if the union itself is the thing fucking people over, then we do not have a need for that specific union and that specific circumstance. Because if nobody is gaining from it, or if the general population of people are gaining for it, then the only reason they are in it is because they have to be. 86% of people do not qualify for the talking points that they are spouting. Like, if everyone qualified, yes! Make everything union. If everyone qualified, nobody would have a reason to hesitate. Because at the end of the day, yes, you can pay all these dues, and yes, you can pay all these fees, but at least you have healthcare to fall back on. Which is the main thing. The main thing. Because America's healthcare system sucks. But 86, like... I'm gonna drink my wine.
People get paid a lot more, so people are like, oh, but, you know, then some non-union actors will have...
But they're still not getting paid a lot more because they're not even making $27,000 a year. Like,
join the union, yeah, they'll be able to, easily, because they'll get paid more.
no, they won't because they're not making $27,000 a year! 20, do you know how astronomically low that is? That doesn't even qualify for the word astronomically. Do you know how hellishly low that is? In this economy. Like, that is crazy. That is crazy. Yeah, this situation is how much is $27,000 a year? Like, how much is that a month? And even then, I'm assuming $27,000 is before taxes. Like, could you imagine fucking after taxes? So let's see. What was it? 27,300 something. So let's do 27,300 divided by 12. That is $2,275 a month. $2,275 a month. In a country where with rent, you can expect to pay between $1,000 and $2,000 a month. $2,275. This is infuriating. Oh my god.
To help pay for those things, there are options to help people pay for the union dues.
What are those options? I'm gonna look into that right now because I am angry. What are these options that you speak of? No, fuck off AI overview. You're the reason for this. Okay, this is on their website. Dues relief and financial assistance for KMR. What is a KMR claimant? Oh, CMR. SAG-AFTRA Finance Committee and Executive Committee have unanimously approved work dues relief for any SAG-AFTRA member with a perfected claim against KMR. Italicized. Perfected claim against KMR for outstanding KMR claimant or payments. The fuck? So it's a company. SAG-AFTRA recognized financial loss that aggravated KMR's clients are. So is this only for KMR? So if you're not having... Before I speak, what is a perfected claim? This is a claim where a member provides endorsed checks from the employer and KMR cash. Okay, so this is all for KMR. This is for COVID. Okay, good. What is dues relief? What dues relief is SAG-AFTRA offering members due to the COVID-19 crisis? Unanimously approved targets relief for SAG-AFTRA. May dues bills will be mailed as usual mid-April, and those who are willing to pay on time are encouraged to do so. However, late fees will be waived. Good. But this is just for COVID. So is there a general... Okay, emergency financial assistance fund. Okay. Effective January 1st, 2025, grant eligibility guidelines have been updated and changes may impact your eligibility to receive a grant at this time. Receipt of a grant under past guidelines does not guarantee another grant under the new guidelines. Lack of work alone does not qualify as a financial emergency. This program cannot replace government employee disability assistance and is meant to provide temporary relief during unexpected crises. unexpected. So if it's just a one-off, whoa, that's good. That's good. I'm not going to knock that. But if you're constantly making so little that you can't survive, this does not qualify. So you still need to pay your dues, is what I'm hearing. Must have joined SAG-AFTRA at least 1 year before applying for assistance. Must have reached one of the following SAG-AFTRA earnings benchmarks. 25,000 over the total of 5 years, or 50,000 over the total of 10 years, or 200,000 total over a lifetime of SAG-AFTRA earnings. I'd be curious to see what they qualify as lifetime. Must be below the following liquid asset limits for individuals less than 10,000. Okay. So this is only for emergencies. So the bare minimum. Now my page isn't loading. Okay, there we go. So what they should offer. I don't see a reason to knock them, but I don't see a reason to praise them for that.
Know that. Oh my god, it's almost like you're not an actor. It's almost like you're not a voice actor. And neither are those YouTubers. But bottom line is that both non-union actors and union actors in a video game want it to go union and have wanted it to go union for a long time. So nobody else's opinion that is super fucking wrong anyway matters. Hope this helps.
Damn, I guess I'm I guess I'm lying to you guys. Just don't listen to me because I'm a YouTuber apparently. You should listen to Corinna instead, the voice and face of reason.
God.
But seriously, what was the goal here? Not only does it come off as unhinged, but it's also
Okay,
all
the
over
jump
place
scares
and
are a cheap
says things
shot.
that don't make any sense. Genshin was never a part of the strike. People are striking because they want Genshin to have a union contract. Why? Because it pays more. But they're already being paid the union rate. Then comes the topic of healthcare and benefits. But you know what's funny? As far as I know, and I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Corinna is FICOR, not even a full-fledged member of SAG-AFTRA. You become FICOR purely because you want to work non-union jobs without getting into trouble. For that privilege, you're exchanging every benefit that comes with being a SAG-AFTRA member, including healthcare benefits.
We don't know, so I'm gonna hold my tongue.
I'm so confused, dude. Like, I just genuinely don't understand what the point of this rant was. And yet, Corinna was kind of becoming the unofficial spokesperson of voice actors regarding the SAG-AFTRA strike, which I'm sure you can understand is a disaster. The most ironic thing in all this is that Corinna makes this out to be a life or death situation, while continuing to work on Genshin Impact as the most important character for voice acting. You just can't make this up. And this just makes this whole rant even funnier. I mean, honestly, this even reached Chinese players, and they didn't really have a lot of nice things to say. Saying things like,
if I ever get to the point where anyone, like Chinese netizens, any Chinese netizen knows who I am and feels the need to comment on me, please take away my internet access. Because my feelings will be hurt at an extraordinarily rapid rate. Chinese netizens never hold back.
please change Paimon's English voice actor. Everyone will be happy. I'll even do another 6 months of battle passes if you want. I'll top up too if they do it. If I were an English
oh my god.
Scream any longer,
Rat!
What a voice. It's like a desperate mouse that got pressed onto a grill by a piece of bread and slowly gets made.
Oh my god.
God damn, these Chinese players are ruthless.
Jesus!
Corinna then posted a video that featured a toilet. Corinna just sat there in front of the toilet, saying that all this harassment was overwhelming, that vomit can come out at any second, and then complained for 8 minutes about the strike. Yeah, this is
Okay, I get it. Oh, is that Phone Cooper? I get it. Like, if the entire internet was fucking dogging on me, yeah, I'd be in front of a toilet too. Shit. I'd be in that toilet. Like, I get it. Being so strong in something, and then getting told here are all of the points why you are maybe misled, maybe not being purposefully horrible. You know, here are all the points, and then doubling down and saying, and getting such like a cocky attitude and saying, no, fuck you, actually. And then being surprised that Twitter, of all places, is just absolutely obliterating you. Which, again, still sucks. Like, that is not a point to be contested. Like, it sucks. Like, nobody should be threatening or like, mass dogging on anyone. Like, that sucks. But to then film this, like, candid video in front of a toilet, being like, oh, I'm gonna throw, very clearly searching for sympathy that is not working when you were so strong in your points before, just looks bad. Looks very bad. And it leaves you wide open for people to shit on you even more.
Actually real. This video is not AI. I think it's safe to say that if Hoyoverse find a new voice actor for Paimon, then it would kind of be...
Would they try claiming that it was AI? I missed that point. Did I miss something? They did. I would be very curious to see their proof. Very curious.
Guy that this TikTok was AI. Interesting. There, in front of the toilet, saying that all this harassment was overwhelming, that vomit can come out at any second, and then complained for 8 minutes about the strike. Yeah, this is actually real. This video is not AI. I think it's safe to say that if Hoyoverse find a new voice actor for Paimon, then it would kind of be justified just over this insane erratic behavior. Because when have you ever seen a voice actor crash this hard? The amount of damage that this strike had sustained in just the span of a few days was incalculable. Joe Zieja, the voice actor behind the Genshin character of Risley, decided to step up. He had already made a video when the video game strike had begun, explaining
This is what Ark was talking about. I might not have to watch the whole thing. Okay.
why voice actors were striking, and now thought that he needed to make a new video explaining what's been going on with Hoyoverse while clearing any misinformation about the strike itself, saying, I do my best to inject clarity into what has become a really sad cyclone of misinformation and toxicity, RE, the SAG-AFTRA strike, Genshin Impact, the recasts, and AI. Similar to my first video on the strike, it's an attempt to educate.
I feel like everything I've seen about this guy, he seems to have a very level head. And I very much appreciate. He seems so agreeable. I don't know how else to phrase it. I know I can phrase it better, but I like this guy.
But it ended up
I can feel the wine hitting.
The situation as much as
Can you tell?
Hoping. With this post quote tweeting it and saying, so they bullied the new Kinich voice actor for a strike that does not exist? Yeah. Let's look at the video real quick. So one of the first things he does is reiterate that the whole point of the strike is that SAG-AFTRA actors are not allowed to work with the struck video game companies. But as we saw earlier, Hoyoverse is not one of the struck video game companies. He then goes on to explain what's been happening with Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse games, and yeah, you'll find out soon enough why that tweet that we just saw was made. I'll put it on 1.5 speed. Watch.
Things that started production before this are also not.
Oh God. He's gonna be speaking even faster. No. Okay. Let's go back to normal.
Production before the strike are also not. It's a very confusing atmosphere, I know. But I can relieve that confusion for Genshin fans, specifically by saying this. You know what company isn't in that select group of production companies being struck? Hoyo. I cannot emphasize enough that MiHoYo properties are not, and never have been, union games. Therefore, Genshin has never been a struck property. There are 0 union rules governing Genshin, or any MiHoYo game, period. End of story, as of this day. This is not a debate. This means, and I want you to listen very carefully here, if the SAG-AFTRA strike ended tomorrow, this would mean absolutely nothing for Hoyo Games and its actors. If suddenly WB and Formosa, Keywords, all the rest, threw a ticker tape parade and said, we agree to all the actors' demands, yay! Nothing would change for Genshin, or Star Rail, or Triple Z, or any other non-union game. So point number 1, please stop talking about Genshin like it has anything to do with the SAG-AFTRA strike. Genshin is not a union game. The actors working on it are not working under a union contract, period. Put a pin in that, okay? Because we're gonna come back to the idea of union and non-union actors in a minute, now that we've sort of covered union and non-union games. Okay, so, why the hell aren't actors going in to record lines for Genshin if it's not struck? When the strike happened, many Genshin actors got together in various disparate channels and decided that now would be a good time to try to engage with Hoyo and encourage them to take some action. Actors could use the momentum, the social momentum of the SAG-AFTRA strike to include Hoyo properties in the conversation. Again though, it's not a strike, and it has nothing to do with the union. Since this is not a strike, I'm not going to call it a strike. From here on, I'm going to call it a collective work refusal, because it's not governed by any one body like SAG-AFTRA. There is no one result desired, like a collective bargaining agreement, and there is no penalty for not participating, unlike the SAG-AFTRA strike. If you're a union member and you cross the line and record games you're not supposed to, you can be penalized. In a non-union environment, that doesn't exist. So, what did Genshin actors want? This is where some of the confusion kind of begins. The goal wasn't really totally clear. Some actors wanted them to...
Which would make sense why then Karina was not penalized by SAG, and they were more than concerned by penalizations from the public Okay.
To sign a union agreement and flip union, become a union game. You might have heard this called an interim agreement, which just has to do with an agreement that's going on during a strike, or a full union contract. There's some nuance of difference here. Because Genshin's an ongoing game, they're essentially the same thing. Others wanted them to just add AI protections into their non-union contract. Something like the Nova rider, okay? Which is something that any actor can attach to any contract to legally protect themselves against AI exploitation. And some actors, understandably, didn't really know what to think about the whole thing, but they were motivated by the social side, solidarity, social obligation, community feeling, and they also refused to work. This is part of the problem of non-union games, or non-union anything, actually. Since there's no actual collective bargaining agreement governed by any union, it becomes difficult for a group of people to take a collective action. In social psychology, you call this a collective action problem. It's very complicated. So anytime a group of non-union actors tries to get together to achieve any result, it's hard. It's hard for us to communicate. It's hard for us to bargain. Since there are no rules in place, any actor is free to just...
My points aren't they will never be anti-union. I think if anything, because like he said, with non-unions or non-union work, it is very, very, very hard to come together in like a collective agreement and then bargain for yourselves. I think we need more unions. Why the fuck is there one giant monopoly? I'm so tired.
Just disregard that collective effort at any time with no penalty, unlike, again, an actual strike where you can get fined or kicked out of the union for strike breaking.
So Joe confirmed one thing that we've looked at so far in this video. Genshin was never part of the strike, Hoyoverse games have never been part of the strike, and this is literally as if you were working in a corporation. Let's say you work at Amazon. You and your coworkers decided to stop showing up to work one day.
Oh yeah,
you can't even agree on
immediately.
why you're striking, okay? Half of you want AI protections, the other half wants more money. What do you expect? What do you think that Amazon's gonna do? It's actually a miracle that they've been able to keep their jobs for so long while not showing up to work for months. As Joe said, this can't be even counted as a strike. And if anything, it sounds like a wildcat strike, something that's been prohibited under the Taft-Hartley Act. A wildcat strike is a strike action undertaken by unionized workers without union leadership's authorization, support, or approval. They're just hoping that by using...
But then why did SAG reach out to Venti? Venti's voice actor. Venti. They crossed between the fictional and non-fictional boundary and reached out to Venti himself. Why did they reach out to Venti's voice actor? From my understanding. I think, and maybe this has happened in the past and backfired, I could be reinventing the wheel here, but having a specific union per company with power divvied up equally and democratically elected so that there's nobody with absolute control, even on a company basis. I think having a union per company or per organization, per whatever the fuck, so that there's not just one governing body over everything would be awesome. Or every few companies. Because then, again, you would have, the issue of healthcare and stuff, how financially feasible that would be. So maybe, per every few companies, with, again, democratically elected power, divvied equally. I feel like that would have the potential to work. Not just an all-seeing presence, you know? Because he's right. Being non-union, it's so fucking hard to organize and advocate for yourself. It is borderline impossible. But when you are forced to then work for another shithead, that's shitty. I feel like I've made the same point over and over and over again. Ugh.
Using the momentum of a different strike, they can somehow force Hoyoverse to sign their agreement. Do you realize how ridiculous this is? This is insane. I want to reiterate, if this was done in any other industry, you'd be fired within 24 hours, all right? And yet they're still doing it to this day. Then Joe talks about something that many people have been asking about. Okay, but what about the Taft-Hartley? What happens to non-union voice actors if Hoyoverse were to sign the interim agreement? Here's what he had to say.
The actor does not live in a right-to-work state. Now we're getting murky. You might have heard the term Taft-Hartley thrown around, and I advise you really just don't look too deep into this because it's confusing. It's a piece of labor law that actually has nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA. It was written in 1947 and designed as a path to both protect people from being forced to join unions, but also offer them more flexible ways to join if they want to. For our purposes, bringing it back to us, consider a Taft-Hartley like a temporary 60-day union pass to allow someone who is non-union to work on a union job. After
That'll
that,
pass.
they're considered a must join, at which point, like the status implies, they must join the union or stop working union jobs. I'll break here for a second and tell you that it is significantly more complicated than that. There are caveats as to when the Taft-Hartley triggers, for example. It's also possible to negotiate an individual waiver with the union and say, look, I'm only ever going to work this one union job. Please don't make me join. I won't do anything else. And they can say yes. There's flexibility here. These, however, are edge cases that are just beyond the scope of this video. This would be a 5-hour video. In the simplest sense, you can do on a Taft-Hartley a very limited amount of union work as a non-union member before you have to join. And that sort of makes perfect sense if you think about it. The union offers actual tangible benefits, even for a single contract. Reaping those benefits without being a union member and paying your dues is like extending your Netflix free trial indefinitely. At some point, you gotta pay for what you're using. But being able to join the union for some actors can be a really good thing. Getting into the union is a stepping stone in many actors' careers, and it can actually be difficult to qualify for the union because, bizarrely, the only way into the union is if you get Taft-Hartley first and then join. Oh,
Interesting.
simple. No, it's not. I don't want to delve too far into union membership here, but it is important to understand and consider why an actor might not want to join the union. The entry fee itself can be steep, depending on where you live. Mine was nearly $4,000 when I joined 10 years ago. So that talent would have to know for certain they were going to get at least 5 sessions out of Genshin to make up for that loss. That's about how much money you'd make in 5 union video game sessions, depending on the tier that you're in. Again, complicated. Or that actor would have to feel confident enough that they could book other union work to help them bring that number, that entry fee number, back to 0. You do get pension and health benefits, okay? But you only qualify.
Yup. I can't get that percentage out of my head. That is literally almost as bad as an MLM. 86%. 86% of people do not qualify.
For health benefits if you earn a certain income of union work around $30,000 a year.
So this goes back to everything we said, of course. What was interesting, though, is that he had to pay $4,000 to join a union when SAG-AFTRA's website now says $3,000. Now, I will say that it is very refreshing watching Joe's video because while he does echo some of the same opinions as the other entitled voice actors, he presents them in a more realistic and conservative manner. But joining SAG-AFTRA...
I feel like the word conservative sends shivers down my spine, but he is very palatable. He's not so in your face. He's not being a dickhead, which is a breath of fresh air on twitter.com. I have a headache still.
specifically as a voice actor still doesn't really make a lot of sense. As a traditional actor, sure, you can make the case. But as a voice actor, 80% of your contracts are going to be non-union. Only 20% will be union and will contribute to your pension. Not to mention that the odds of you making enough to even qualify for health insurance are pretty damn low. Legal representation is really nice, sure, but it does feel weird to be locked behind SAG-AFTRA membership. If a non-union voice actor got their voice stolen, SAG-AFTRA could represent them, win the case, and set a precedent for every single voice actor on United States soil.
That's a good point. I was about to argue against that point, but that's a good point. Setting a precedent would be huge. Because, like, I get it. Like, no big entity would want it. Nobody, in general, would not want to... No big... The line is hitting, sorry. No big entity or anyone would want to just, like, shell out a fuck ton of money on somebody that's not even technically on their side. Like, I get that, but setting a precedent would be huge. And that would also increase their PR like crazy.
Unions in Europe do, right? They stand up for everyone in the industry, not
Wait,
just people
that's
who are
true!
members. Asking for $3,000 from people who mostly...
So it's possible! God, I'm so America-brained that I forgot about that. Oh my... God damn it, man. What the fuck?
do this as a hobby
What
just
the
doesn't
fuck?
make any sense. And that's a problem. Joe goes on to talk about what we already talked about as well, the fact that technically as a union member, working non-union contracts is not permitted. And he also talks about FICOR. He then goes on to talk about social media toxicity, how it doesn't help, and how, yes, this situation is quite complicated. We've understood
Yeah, social
that
media
quite well.
toxicity does not help.
Unfortunately, Joe's intention didn't really work out as well as he had hoped, because many of the comments are left in utter confusion and were also...
SAG doesn't sound like a union by other countries' standards. Unions work for all workers in the industry they represent, and not only those who are paying union members. That's how changes are made. Instead, SAG's director/head makes more than $1 million a year.
So disillusioned with the voice actors that have been participating in this discourse. I mean, look at this comment here with 4.6k likes saying, so let me get this right. Union voice actors are bullying a non-union voice actor for getting work with a non-union game, which isn't being struck by the voice acting union. A non-union project that union voice actors shouldn't even be working on. So it's okay for union workers to steal non-union voice actors' work, but if a non-union voice actor takes the role of a union voice actor who shouldn't even be striking, but is refusing to work, there's hell to pay. This is ridiculous. And this comment says, in their quest to not be replaced by AI, they seem to have completely forgotten that actual people can still replace them. This strike, as well as many of the Genshin voice actors that participated in this discourse on Twitter, were now seen as a complete and utter joke. Kiba Walker, who had already participated in this discourse, said, is it just me, or was that video, the video we just watched, not helpful to the situation, and now people hate us more? The unintended...
No, okay, he didn't read the second. Like, before y'all start jumping on me, there was a lot of good info about the union, how things work in the industry, and the situation itself. But I think it could have been an important moment to help colleagues, I don't know, not be painted as villains and monsters. How? They're not villains and monsters. Let me be clear. But it was a very bad decision to make everything so public. So public. And you cannot paint that in a positive light because it is just not true. Like, painting it in a positive light would be not true. It would be just bullshitting. Like... No.
Not helpful to the situation, and now people hate us more. The unintended consequence of this video stretched far and wide, with some people calling for every striking voice actor on Genshin Impact to get replaced immediately.
Whoa! Whoa!
Yeah.
Whoa! 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 No! 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 Where did he go? Where did he go? Where did I put him? Where did he go? Oh. No. No, 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 no. That's not necessary. No, no. Let's... Hold your horses. Hold them. Grasp them by the reins firmly. No.
Yes, the video was 29 minutes long, but they could only focus on the part that said Genshin and Hoyoverse were never part of the strike to begin with.
Yeah,
the voice
and
actors...
with a video that's so informational, you cannot just focus on one part. But of course, Twitter.com.
went completely unhinged on Twitter had lost all good faith. As this entire catastrophe was fully unfolding, Corinna decided to post a picture with some very well-known
like Corinna's just
voice
a PR
actors, one of them
disaster at this
being
point.
the voice
That's a
actor
really
of the main
cute
male
dog.
character in Genshin Impact.
Is that a poodle? Wait, is it a service dog? Oh my god! I didn't know poodles can be service dogs. I thought they were really stubborn. Aww. That's a really cute dog.
This was after
animals.
the unhinged
Sorry.
rant and the sitting in front of a toilet complaining about vomiting rant. Look, this might have just been an innocent picture, but you have to understand, many of these voice actors had not really expressed anything on Twitter during this crisis, but they were still caught in the crossfire because being in a picture with Corinna after the insane unhinged rant
I feel like with
meant
how
that you approved
hardcore
of this
Corinna
behavior
is
and meant
about
that you
their
thought the
stances.
same way. Corinna is now essentially a walking plague. Any other voice actor that is seen in the same picture is probably going to get hated too. It's just not a good thing to associate with someone like that right now. Look, overall,
I feel like I worded that incorrectly. It's not bad to be firm in your stance, but it's not good to be purposefully obtuse. Like, I feel like you should not think of your position as the end-all be-all in anything, really, because I feel like that just creates an argumentative person. I feel like you can be like, okay, I still believe this, but we're clearly not going to come to an agreement. That's fine. But to be like, no! Like, that's just unwise.
To the end, congratulations. Overall, this whole strike, as well as the fundamental need for SAG-AFTRA as a union, is now being questioned. It's pretty insane to witness a strike that has been going on for 8 months get hurt so much from a public relations standpoint in just the span of a week because of some entitled voice actors. SAG-AFTRA is a joke of a union, especially for voice actors, and they deserve better. And while you may be disillusioned with all English dub voice actors right now, I do want to point out that, look, most of them are actually very good people. I had the pleasure of speaking with one in particular, and he was one of the nicest people I had ever met.
People are so
It just goes to show what a
one-sided.
few bad apples can do to the reputation of an entire profession. It's something that will take a long time to recover. It's such a shame. In the end, though, many people are asking themselves, is Hoyoverse actually going to sign this agreement? After this, probably never. People are fully on their side now. Before, if they had recasted some voice actors, they would have probably faced backlash. Now, people are calling for the complete deletion of English dub in general. If they replace Corinna as well as any other entitled voice actor on Twitter, hell, even the one striking and that said nothing about this, then the backlash would be minimal.
No. The backlash would be horrible from me. No. 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 Don't. Have mercy. Have mercy. I have felt so many emotions today. I would be curious to see what happens when the strike is over. Because, like, Hoyo isn't even involved in it. Like, would it also wrap up? Because of the public vision? Or public perception? Man, I just want my sexy fictional men.
And that's just the impact of this entire controversy. I do hope that voice actors and performers of all kinds actually do get AI protections because it's actually a problem, but this is not.
I don't know anything about Aoife.
Especially
But
when
Aoife's
you're
cute.
striking on something that isn't part of the struck companies to begin with. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it. This video took a long time.
Have we reached the end?
Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff.
Oh my god, dude. Oh god, wrong. Well, hey there, beautiful. wrong image. There might be a part 2 to this that I'm sure Mugen is on, because Mugen is pretty much on anything. Because Venti's voice actor, from what I've seen, I could be mistaken, was reached out to by SAG-AFTRA, basically saying, do not voice for the 5 whatever Mondstadt quest. And it's like, it's a non-union game, the company's not being struck, what's happening? So that's probably going to be covered in a part 2, because we didn't get any answers for that. I believe this video was filmed before that. Oh my god, my voice is shot. Sorry if I just go corpse husband for a second. Like, my voice is so shot right now. This was filmed 2 weeks ago, and the whole thing with Venti is pretty recent. No Way SAG-AFTRA has sent VAs threatening letters. Can I expand this? Yes. Has sent VAs threatening letters. And many VAs didn't even vote for the strike. Or basically for... Well, from that... Unless there's information that I didn't see. From that, we know it's now a forced... Or a collective refusal to work. This was said by Erica, by the way, Venti's voice actor. This is way more awful than I imagined. And this is a comment by Erica. I think so. SAG has been sending threatening letters, so it's been very difficult to navigate, but they were rude to me, and I'm sick of this shit. Thank you guys for loving Venti as much as I do. Aww. So I'm so sorry the strike has sucked for everyone. We didn't even vote on it, because Hoyo is a non-union game. Yes, I will cover everything I missed. I'm literally so over this. Aww. This person said it gets worse. Despite Erica being a part of the team, they instantly blame her the moment she wanted out. It's ironic how they are now using the rules they have been breaking since day one. Also, Corinna again showing how much of an ego they have who's breaking. Oh my god. Oh my god, dude. Okay, so this is their stuff on union working, non-union. Global Rule 1, no member shall render any circumstance. Okay, so this is okay. Corinna speaks once again. She is not FICOR. She technically shouldn't have been working on Genshin at all. Isn't that what you lot have been saying? Like Joe said, when an actor works off the car, they're taking the risks. So now it's against the rules. But in most cases, it's totally fine. Okay. Yeah, I feel like there's definitely going to be a part 2 to this that I do not have the brain capacity to cover now or ever. I will continue to be React Andy. My apologies. I will give proper credit. Thank you to Muujin for making this hour and 23-minute long video. This is his account. Quite lovely.
Okay. Okay.
Go follow him if you like deep dives on this stuff. I feel like I really haven't properly summarized anything, but I don't even know how to at this point. In summary, monopolies suck ass. There's a reason that they're illegal, but the government is inefficient. And also sucks ass. That's a summary. Y'all know when you're in, like, a very, not abandoned building, but a very minimal foot trafficked building, and you can hear the overhead lights, and there's just a buzzing. That's, like, what my brain is. Good night, sleep tight, let SAG-AFTRA creep up on you and steal $3,000 from your wallet, and goodbye!